Chapter 10:18. They won? The team that was least favored actually won the competition? Especially since this was a battle between four nations? General Li sensed Long Yuan's rage and hurriedly cleared his throat. Since the Heavenly Cloud Nation and the Cloudy Nation have won, then the two of you can start fighting to determine a winner. Xiao Yuqing looked at Yun Luofeng and said coldly, I forfeit. Even Yun Luofeng frowned slightly, his gaze landing on Xiao Yuqing, let alone the others. Don't forget, we agreed to fight in the finals. Do you want to forfeit? Xiao Yuqing nodded. I've already placed second for Wind Cloud Nation and I don't owe them anything. The championship is not important. Furthermore, I don't think I'm a match for you. General Li was stunned. He did not expect this to happen. Just as he was about to speak, Long Yuan's furious voice rang out. You want to forfeit? I won't allow it. You two must fight. Since you two are old acquaintances, I will let you kill each other. This is the only way to quell my anger. If it was someone else, they might fear Long Yuan's authority. Unfortunately, the person he met was Xiao Yuqing. Xiao Yuqing had always been cold and indifferent. Therefore, Xiao Yuqing did not even look at Long Yuan. He led the people from Wind Cloud Country down the arena, leaving behind a gust of wind that made the hearts of some of the geniuses from the various countries skip a beat. I've decided, Lu Chini is a thing of the past to me. I've already thrown myself into Xiao Yuqing's arms. Did you see what he did just now? He's so handsome and arrogant. Compared to Xiao Yuqing, I admire Yun Luofeng more. Even though we're both women, I don't mind being a lesbian with her. I think that Xiao Yuqing and Yun Luofeng are a good match. Unfortunately, Yun Luofeng already has a husband. Perhaps it's a pity, the hall was extremely noisy. However, after these two matches, Yun Luofeng's name was destined to spread far and wide. Let's go back and rest. Yun Luofeng stretched lazily, there's still one more match tomorrow. She narrowed her eyes slightly and her lips curled into a smile. After tomorrow's competition, she would finally be able to set off for home, the next day. At the first glimmer of dawn, the streets were already bustling with noise and excitement. The people were all discussing the battles that had taken place in the past few days. When Yun Luofeng was mentioned, their gazes were filled with reverence. In the end, all the words merged into one and spread throughout the entire street. That sentence was, come, let's go watch Yun Luofeng tame beasts. In an instant, everyone rushed to the beast taming ground. Their goal was to get a good spot early so that they could watch Yun Luofeng's match. Thus, when Yun Luofeng arrived at the beast taming ground, he was shocked by the situation before him. The entire beast taming ground was densely packed with people. Some people even occupied the walkways. If it wasn't for the fact that the dangerous beast taming ground didn't allow people to enter, perhaps this group of people would have occupied the cages for themselves. Fuck, Yi Shima couldn't help but curse. Why are there so many people today? Be it the medical skills competition or the martial arts competition, there had never been so many people. The geniuses of all the countries, and even the nobles of the Tianhui Empire had come to visit. Their goal was to see Yun Luofeng tame beasts. Chapter 10:19. Miss Yun. A young man ran over excitedly when he saw Yun Luofeng. Impulsively, he reached out to shake Yun Luofeng's hand. However, at this moment, his arm was suddenly squeezed tightly by a large hand. Yi Shima held onto his arm tightly, raised his eyebrows and said coldly, "Stay away from my sister-in-law." The young man's face turned red and he hurriedly defended himself. "Young Master Yi, you've misunderstood me. I just admire Miss Yun too much. I was too excited just now so I overstepped my boundaries." After saying this, the young man turned to Yun Luofeng and continued, "Miss Yun, in the previous two battles, you have made everyone look at the Tianyun nation in a new light. Therefore, I believe that you are also a genius in the area of beast taming. Also, I am a doctor. Can I join the Tianyun nation and work for you?" Facing the young man whose face was filled with hope, Yun Luofeng slightly raised the corners of her lips. Her eyes were filled with an evil light. Every frown and smile of hers was extremely moving and beautiful. If one day, a force known as the Medical Tower appears, I welcome you to join the Medical Tower. As soon as she finished speaking, Yun Luofeng slowly walked towards the beast-taming platform. Her silhouette was very faint and her fine black hair was flying in the wind. The young man's eyes shone brightly as he stared unblinkingly at the girl walking away. In a firm voice, he said, "My name is Moe. If one day, a force known as the Medical Tower really appears, even if I am thousands of miles away, I will definitely go." Yun Luofeng stopped in her tracks and entered the beast-taming ground without looking back. In the beast-taming ground, a few geniuses were already waiting. When they saw the girl enter the ground, they were all stunned and subconsciously took a few steps back. This lunatic is also participating in the beast-taming competition. It looks like we have no hope of winning this time. Can we begin? Yun Luofeng looked at the referee and asked calmly. Perhaps Long Yuan and Imperial concubine Ling had not recovered from the previous incident, so at this moment, the two of them were not in the beast-taming ground. The judge stared blankly for a moment before wiping the cold sweat off his forehead. He then smiled and said, "In a moment, I will release the spiritual beasts from the cages. The person who subdues the most spiritual beasts in half an incense stick's time will be the champion." As soon as these words were spoken, the judge immediately ordered for the cages to be opened. Instantly, the spiritual beasts, who had regained their freedom, charged out in a frenzy and pounced towards the crowd. At the same time, a faint aura emanated from Yun Luofeng's body. From afar, there seemed to be a fiery red light above her head. The light reflected the image of a fiery red eight-tailed fox. It was extremely shocking. The spiritual beasts stopped in their tracks when they sensed the young lady's aura. They stared at her in fear and did not dare to take another step forward. Just as the crowd was feeling puzzled, the spirit beasts knelt down in unison and made a gesture of submission. The direction they were facing was where Yun Luofeng was standing. All the beasts submitted. He would definitely become a king. The white-clothed girl stood with her hands clasped behind her back. She stood quietly among the beasts and accepted the worship of the spirit beasts. She was like a monarch who had descended from the heavens. Her black eyes looked down on the world with disdain and arrogance. The entire beast-taming ground was silent. Whether it was the spectators or the geniuses who were participating in the competition, they all remained silent as if they had discussed it beforehand. Chapter 10:20. Everyone's eyes fell on Yun Luofeng. There was shock, doubt, and admiration in their eyes. Originally, they thought that Yun Luofeng's medical skills and combat skills were exceptional. They didn't expect her to be an expert in beast taming. Just by standing there, all the beasts knelt down in submission. Who in the world could have such ability? Can the competition end now? The girl's lazy voice finally brought the judge back to his senses. He wiped the blood and sweat off his face again and said with a bitter smile, "You are already the champion." However, because of this abnormality, he couldn't come up with a new ranking. It seemed that he had to inform His Majesty and reorganize the competition for the geniuses from the other countries. "Let's go." Yun Luofeng shrugged his shoulders, turned around, and walked over to Yi Shima and the others. "The competition is over. Big brother, go and collect your prizes. I will go back and rest first. We will return tomorrow." The prizes for every match were extremely generous, and Yun Luofeng, that freak, had won 3 in a row. Thinking of this, everyone looked at Yun Luofeng in awe. After this competition, the status of the Heavenly Cloud Nation will rise immensely among the nations. In the inner courtyard of the palace, Long Yuan, who was reading memorials in the imperial study, fell silent when he heard his subordinate's report. A strange feeling emerged in his heart. Perhaps making an enemy of Yun Luofeng was a wrong decision. However, there was no turning back. He could only brace himself and continue down this path. "Your Majesty, Master Qing Mu is here to see you." Suddenly, a eunuch hurried in and reported. Long Yuan frowned slightly, his face expressionless. "Let him in. I want to see what he is here for." The eunuch obeyed the order and left. Not long after, Qing Mu, dressed in a green robe, walked in from outside the door. He cupped his fists and said directly, "Your Majesty, I am already old. There are many things in the Imperial Hospital that I am unable to do. Please allow me to retire and return home." Long Yuan was taken aback. Even though he had long wanted to chase this old man away, he felt that something was not quite right when the old man had come forward to hand in his resignation letter. Hence, with a cold expression, he asked, "Qingmu, did the Peerless Empire and the Flowing Moon Empire try to rope you in? So you plan to follow them? As for the other countries, that was because it was impossible for those small empires to offer anything that could move Greenwood. The only ones who could poach him away were those two empires." Qingmu lowered his head and cupped his fists. "Your Majesty, your subject can swear that after I leave, I will not join either the Peerless Empire or the Flowing Moon Empire. Your Majesty can rest assured." Hearing this, Long Yuan nodded. "Qingmu, since you've made up your mind, I'll allow you to retire and return to your hometown." "Thank you, Your Majesty." The corners of Greenwood's lips curled up into a relaxed smile. He was finally able to unload this burden and live the life he wanted to live. After Qingmu left the imperial study, Long Yuan picked up his brush and was about to continue reading the memorials when a eunuch came to report that Guiyang was requesting an audience. Long Yuan frowned as an ominous feeling slowly rose from the bottom of his heart. He lifted his head and a sharp light flashed across his dark eyes. Guiyang is here to seek an audience? Could it be that this old fellow was going to hand in his resignation like Qingmu? Unexpectedly, just as Long Yuan was thinking of a countermeasure, Guiyang rushed into the imperial study in a panic and knelt in front of Long Yuan with a thud. Chapter 1021. Your Majesty, something bad has happened. My disciple has just killed someone from the Peerless Empire. Long Yuan's heart skipped a beat. His face darkened as he asked, "What is going on?" Guiyang's eyes were full of panic. "My disciple had a dispute with the prince of the Peerless Empire and accidentally killed him, causing the people of the Peerless Empire to want to capture my disciple. In order to protect my disciple, I seriously injured several of the geniuses of the Peerless Empire. What should I do?" Seeing Guiyang's genuine panic, Long Yuan's heart gradually sank to the bottom of the valley. He had already let Qingmu go. Was he going to let this old man Guiyang go as well? If he continued to let him stay, he might drag down the Tianhui Empire. "Guiyang, since this matter was caused by you and your disciple, I will leave it to you. I will not interfere." "Your Majesty." Guiyang crawled forward and pleaded, "I have worked for the Tianhui Empire for so many years, how can you leave me in the lurch?" "I will not leave the Tianhui Empire even if I die." Seeing the old man's shameless appearance, Long Yuan's face became even more ugly. "You have committed a mistake, why should I help you?" Someone expelled Guiyang and his disciple from the palace. They are not allowed to step foot in this life. Guiyang lowered his head, unable to see the expression on his old face. He slowly climbed up from the ground and said in a trembling voice, "Your Majesty, you mean, as long as they are listed as my disciple, they will be expelled from the Imperial Hospital?" "That's right." Long Yuan said impatiently, "The Peerless Empire is powerful. Even the Tianhui Empire cannot compete with them. Do you want me to take the blame for you?" In the Imperial Hospital, besides the two old men, Qingmu and Guiyang, he still had many excellent doctors. Naturally, he did not mind losing them. Guiyang kept his head down and said, "Since your Majesty has decided to give up on me, I will take my leave." He turned around and at that moment, a smile appeared on his slightly raised face. With his hands behind his back, he strode out of the imperial study. As if he felt the sharp gaze behind him, Guiyang quickly put away his high spirits and walked out of the room like a stray dog. After leaving the imperial study, he raised his head and rushed out of the palace with a smile on his face. Inside the inn, Anlan gently swirled the teacup in his hand with a smile on his lips. He raised his eyes slightly and turned to the old man who had just pushed open the door and said with a faint smile, "Master Guiyang, did you succeed?" "Yes." Guiyang smiled and said, "However, we should put on a good show so that Long Yuan won't regret it. I hope that your highness will go to the palace to settle the score with Long Yuan. I hope that your Majesty will go and help." "Grandmaster Guiyang, I know that you and Grandmaster Qing Mu left to seek refuge with Yun Luofeng. And Lan's lips curled into a faint smile. If the peerless empire is in the empire, I will, master, you. And master. You, king. Master, master, And Lan could see it clearly. At first, he was just like the flowing moon empire, unwilling to let the heavenly cloud empire take first place. But later, he stopped in time and tried to repair the relationship between the two sides. Chapter 1022. This was a rare and commendable trait among the young and vigorous geniuses. By the way, how many doctors did you take with you this time? And Lan looked up at Guiyang and asked curiously. Guiyang chuckled, except for those who don't have a good relationship with me, I took the rest. And Lan was a little surprised. Long Yuan allowed you to do this? Of course not. Guiyang smiled mysteriously, but I mentioned it at the end. I asked him if those who were my master and disciple would be expelled. Just yesterday, I changed the registration of those old men to be my master and disciple. Long Yuan probably didn't expect that Guiyang would set such a big trap for him. Of course, in order for this to continue, there was a condition. That was, His Majesty was forced to leave the Tianhui Empire. This matter needed An Lan's help. And Lan pretended to be angry and brought the people of the Peerless Empire to find Long Yuan. Long Yuan was forced to hide with imperial concubine Ling. During this time, the people in the palace saw the registration of the elders of the imperial hospital. They couldn't find Long Yuan to report the situation, so they could only expel everyone from the palace. When Long Yuan returned to the Tianhui Empire and saw that there were only a few people left in the imperial hospital, he was so angry that he wanted to tear the sky apart. At that time, he realized that he had been tricked. Unfortunately, it was too late. That day, after Yun Luofeng received the prize, she rushed to Tianyun without even saying goodbye to Qingmu. She knew that on the day her medical tower was established, Qingmu would definitely come. Tianyun Nation. Yi family's mansion. Jun Fengling was directing the servants to decorate the mansion while Yi Jingshan was helping her. At this time, a surprised voice was heard, "Young Master, Young Madam, Miss Yun and Young Master Mo are back." Feng, and she Mo are back. Jun Fengling was happy and quickly walked out of the door. Her face was full of excitement as her eyes stopped on the young girl who was slowly getting off the horse. "Feng, you're finally back." Her eyes were sparkling and she was smiling. Yun Luofeng's gaze swept around, looking at the Yi family mansion that was covered in red silk. He raised his lips and said, "Mother, who in the Yi family is getting married?" Jun Fengling chuckled. "We've discussed it over the past few days. We've decided to wait for you to come back before letting your second uncle and Miss Ning get married first. I've already decorated the house. Once you're back, they can hold the wedding." Yun Luofeng's heart was moved. Before Ning Xian had met second uncle, she had already been subdued by second uncle's elegance. She had been secretly in love with him for a long time, and it had finally come to fruition. It had not been easy. Feng, Mo, how was the competition this time? Yi Jingshan smiled as he walked over. His voice was as gentle as jade. Jun Fengling glared at him and said angrily, "It's enough that the children are back. Why do you still ask about the result of the competition? Whether we win or lose in this competition, it won't affect us." In her heart, there was nothing better than being together as a family. So what if he lost the competition? She never cared about success or failure. Godmother, Yi Shima laughed and walked forward. "I won't tell you the result of this competition for now. It won't be long before you know it." There were countless countries participating in this competition. With the speed at which these countries spread the news, it was bound to reach Tianyun Nation soon. Chapter 1023. At that time, he would definitely give his adoptive parents a pleasant surprise. It doesn't matter if you lost, adoptive mother won't mind. You must be tired from the journey, I'll let the maidservants take you to rest. Seeing that Yi Shima was unwilling to tell the result of the competition, Jun Fengling thought that it was another failure, but she didn't blame him. Instead, she comforted him. The competition focused on the process, not the result. The return of Yun Luofeng and the others caused a great uproar throughout the Tianyun nation. Many people came to visit them, even the palace sent people to greet them, but it was inevitable that anyone who wanted to ask about the result of the competition was stopped by Jun Fengling. In this way, it created an illusion that Yun Luofeng and the others must have failed. The emperor was a little disappointed, but he didn't blame the Yi family. After all, Yun Luofeng was willing to go to the Tianyun nation, which was already giving him a lot of face. What right did he have to blame her? What's more, if it weren't for her, the empress wouldn't have woken up. The emperor didn't blame the Yi family, but it didn't mean that other people wouldn't talk about the Yi family. Just as the Heavenly Cloud Conference was about to begin, an uninvited guest came to the Yi family, in the hall. Qingmu leisurely sipped the tea in his hand, his face full of praise. This Yi family's tea is really not ordinary. I've never tasted such delicious tea before. Hee, looks like I'll be staying here for the rest of my life. It is indeed good tea. Guiyang smiled slightly, his eyes swept outside the hall. I wonder when she will come? Just as he said that, an old man hurried in from outside the door. When he saw the two old men sitting and sipping tea, his face suddenly changed, and he quickly greeted them. Grandmaster Qingmu, Grandmaster Guiyang, why are you here? With the status of the Yi family's old man, he naturally knew Qingmu and Guiyang, but what puzzled him was why these two old men came to the Yi family. Did Yun Luofeng cause trouble in the Tianhui Empire? Oh. We are here to see Yun Luofeng. The Yi family's old man's heart skipped a beat, and he hurriedly said, Grandmasters, Feng is a junior. If she has offended you, I will apologize on her behalf. I hope you two grandmasters can forgive her for her young age. Offended? When did she offend us? Greenwood looked at him in confusion. We're here to fulfill our promise to follow her, so why are you apologizing for her? Old man Yi was dumbfounded and petrified on the spot. Did Master Qingmu just say that he came to follow Feng? Did he hear wrongly? What's going on? Old man Ye's lips trembled slightly. What happened today was beyond his knowledge, so much so that he couldn't wrap his head around it. You still don't know what happened? Qingmu asked in surprise. Then you should know about the medicine tower of the Heavenly Hui Empire, right? Old man Yi nodded in a daze. He did know about the medicine tower. This time, in order to make things difficult for Miss Yun, Long Yuan had purposely activated the array used for the Imperial Hospital assessment. Back then, I had only managed to reach the 5th level. However, your family's Yun Luofeng had climbed to the 8th level at an extraordinary speed and won first place in the medical competition. Boom! Hearing Greenwood's words, the old man's mind exploded. He stood there, dumbfounded, unable to recover for a long time. Yun Luofeng won first place in the medical competition. Did he hear it correctly? Chapter 1024. It seems that you really don't know what happened. Guiyang smiled slightly. Miss Yun not only won first place in the medical competition, but she also won first place in the martial arts competition and the animal taming competition. Old Master Yi had gone from shock to stupor. His heart was filled with mixed feelings, and then a sense of pride arose spontaneously. Although Yun Luofeng was not his granddaughter-in-law, Jun Fengling was already the daughter-in-law of the Yi family. Yun Luofeng was naturally also counted as a member of the Yi family. She had great achievements, of course, the Yi family would be honored. Someone, invite young master, young madam, and Yun Luofeng. After coming back to his senses, Yi Tian hurriedly ordered. The servant took the order and left. After a while, Jun Fengling and Yun Luofeng appeared in the sight of Guiyang and the others. The young girl's clothes were whiter than snow and she was extremely beautiful. After she narrowed her eyes and glanced at the few old men, the corners of her lips curled up into a slight smile. Why are you here? Didn't I say before that on the day of the establishment of my medical tower, you can find me there? Qingmu laughed twice and stood up. Miss Yun, we have already submitted our resignation to His Majesty. Now we have nowhere to go, so I discussed with Guiyang and came here to find you. Jun Fengling and Yi Jingchen still didn't know what had happened, and they unconsciously looked at each other. Qing Mu and Guiyang of the Tianhui Empire resigned their positions and came to find Feng Er. What was going on? Yi Tian seemed to see the doubts of the two and explained with a smile, Jun Chen you probably don't know yet, but Feng has already won first place in the National League. What? First place? Jun Fengling's eyes turned to Yun Luofeng, and her tone was excited. Is this true? You really won first place? Even though Jun Fengling didn't care about Yun Luofeng's results, if her daughter-in-law could win the championship for the Tianyin Empire, how could she not be excited? Under Jun Fengling's gaze, Yun Luofeng nodded. I wanted to find a chance to tell you about this, but I didn't expect the two masters Qing Mu and Guiyang to come here. With Yun Luofeng's acknowledgement, Jun Fengling's eyes were filled with joy. Feng, which competition did you win first place in? Not only was his daughter-in-law's medical skills outstanding, but her combat skills were also unparalleled. That was why Jun Fengling had asked such a question. Yi Tian looked at Yun Luofeng with a complicated expression. This girl got first place in 3 subjects. The meaning of being first in 3 sects was unclear. Therefore, after saying this, Yi Tian clearly saw that Jun Fengling's expression was exactly the same as when he had just heard about it. His mood suddenly became much better. It was better for everyone to be frightened than for him to be the only one. Yi Tian's lips curled up slightly with a smug look on his face. Fenger, Jun Fengling recovered from her shock and gently held Yun Luofeng's hand. Her heroic features were filled with pride. I'm proud of you. She believed that if this matter were to spread out, it would definitely cause a huge uproar in the mainland. Master Yi, is your Yi family having a happy event recently? Guiyang looked at the lanterns outside the house and asked curiously. Yi Tian nodded gently and said with a smile, in a few days, it will be Fenger's second uncle's wedding ceremony. If the two masters have nothing to do, please stay here for a few more days and have a drink. Chapter 1025. That's good. Qing Mu's skin had always been thicker than the city wall. He smiled and said, if that's the case, this old man will stay for a few days. Yun Luofeng did not object to Qing Mu and Guiyang staying. After exchanging a few words with the 2 old men, she returned to her room and continued to cultivate. Only by becoming stronger would she be able to go to another place and find the lover she would be with for the rest of her life. Even if the Yi family did not spread the news, Yun Luofeng's actions in the Tianhui Empire had already spread to the Heavenly Cloud Nation. It caused quite a stir in the Heavenly Cloud Nation. This was especially so for those who thought that Yun Luofeng had lost the competition. They had been ruthlessly slapped in the face by reality. They were so ashamed that they could not face anyone. It turned out that it was not because she had lost the competition that she did not speak about the Tianhui Empire. It was because the girls simply did not want to speak about it. It was ridiculous that they thought that she was too ashamed to stand up and say a word. Winning 3 competitions in a row was something that had never happened before. But now, because of Yun Luofeng's appearance, this rule was broken. What's more, she actually won all 3 competitions. Even the imperial doctors of the Tianhui Empire praised her. For a time, the entire Heavenly Cloud Nation was in turmoil. The Yi family, which was already crowded like a marketplace, became even more lively. At this moment, in the imperial study of the palace, the emperor hurriedly put down the pen and paper in his hand when he saw Yun Luofeng walk in. His handsome face was full of smiles. Miss Yun, this time I came to you because I have something to discuss with you. Yun Luofeng raised her eyebrows slightly and asked, what is it? The specific matter is related to this time's tournament. The emperor smiled and said, according to the rules, this time our Heavenly Cloud Nation won first place, so the other countries will give some land to the Heavenly Cloud Nation. Therefore, I intend to give this land to you. Yun Luofeng's fingers gently stroked her chin, her black eyes flashing. She had been worrying about where to build the medical tower. Now that the emperor had given her a fief, it just happened to solve this problem for her. Good. Yun Luofeng smiled lazily. He raised his black eyes slightly and said in an evil voice, "After my second uncle gets married, I will go to my fief." Ha! The emperor was in a good mood and couldn't help but laugh. "Miss Yun, it is my honor to have a genius like you in our heavenly cloud nation. You can rest assured that I will take care of your family." The emperor was the ruler of the world, so his words naturally carried enormous weight. In the end, he fulfilled his promise and did his best to protect the Yun family until Yun Luofeng returned. If not for him, perhaps Yun Luofeng would not have made it home in time. Yun Xingya's wedding was very grand. On that day, the entrance of the Yi family was almost blocked by the flow of people. If not for the fact that the palace had sent people to maintain order, perhaps those late guests would not have been able to enter the Yi family. Inside the mansion, it was decorated with lanterns and streamers. Maids and servants came and went, preparing the wedding banquet for the guests who came to congratulate them. The old man's face was full of smiles. In the face of the congratulations from these dignitaries, he was so proud that his beard was about to reach the sky. Just at this moment, a voice rang out. It was very clear in this noisy mansion. The envoy of Yulin Kingdom has come to send a congratulatory gift to congratulate young Master Qingya. The old man was startled for a moment. He subconsciously turned his head to ask for Yun Luofeng's opinion. Chapter 1026. Yun Luofeng's lips curled up and a wicked smile appeared on her beautiful face. Other than this Yulin Kingdom, there will be people from many other countries coming to congratulate you. No matter what gifts they bring, you can accept them all. The old man's eyes brightened. He laughed and said, "I love accepting gifts the most. I'll accept as many as you have." After a while, the messenger from the Yulin Kingdom walked in with big steps and a smile on his face. "Master Yun, Lady Yun, our kingdom's emperor heard that today is young Master Yun's big day, so he specially asked me to bring a gift, please accept it." Though he was speaking to old man Yun, his eyes were fixed on Yun Luofeng. Obviously, in his heart, Yun Luofeng was more important. After all, the reason why His Majesty ordered him to bring gifts was to build a good relationship with Yun Luofeng. That way, it would be easier for him to seek medical help in the future. Master Yun coughed and accepted the gift without hesitation. "I'll accept the gift on behalf of my son. Since you've come from afar, you should drink a cup of wine before you leave. Servants, prepare a seat for this messenger from Yulin Kingdom." "Thank you, old man." The messenger cupped his fists and was led to the banquet by a servant. After the messenger sat down, people from other countries came to congratulate them. Needless to say, they were all holding expensive gifts. This time, the old man was not having it. "No, these gifts aren't mine anyway. It's too unfair. I've decided, I'm going to have a big birthday banquet and let all these people give me gifts." The old man glared at him and snorted. Yun Luofeng looked at the old man. "If I remember correctly, your birthday has passed. Can't we just have another one?" The old man rolled his eyes. He counted with his fingers and said to himself, "Other than my birthday, I'm going to have a wine tasting party and invite all the old men from different countries. Of course, they have to give me gifts. If they don't, they won't be allowed to come in. Oh right, hurry and find Yun Xiao to marry. I'll pay for the gifts you receive." Yun Luofeng's eyebrows twitched, and a row of black lines appeared on her forehead. She helplessly looked at the scheming old man. "You can set another old man's day, or you can celebrate your birthday 10 times a year. Having 10 birthdays is a little unreliable, but, although I've never heard of this senior's day, it doesn't stop me from including it. I've decided to do it this way from now on." Yun Luofeng's expression darkened even more. He reckoned that in a few days, the treasuries of all the countries would be emptied by this old man. His Royal Highness, Prince Anlin of the Peerless Empire has sent someone to deliver a congratulatory gift. Princess Qing Shuang of the Liyue Empire has sent someone to congratulate Lord Qingya. Suddenly, 2 voices rang out at the same time, instantly attracting everyone's attention. The Peerless Empire and Flowing Moon Empire had also come. This Yun Luofeng actually had the face to invite people from these 2 empires. When Yun Luofeng heard this voice, she slightly raised her eyebrows. She raised her black eyes and looked at the envoy who had just entered the house. It was unknown when Guiyang had walked in front of Yun Luofeng, but he smiled and said, "Miss Yun, the reason I was able to leave the Tianhui Empire this time was all thanks to Prince Enlan's help. He helped me with only one request. If the Peerless Empire is in trouble in the future, he wants Miss Yun to lend a hand. Of course, if you are unwilling to help, he will not force you." Chapter 1027. As for Princess Qing Shuang. Guiyang paused, then continued, "She is considered a rare existence in the Flowing Moon Empire. Even though Princess Qing Shuang is not strong, her medical skills are excellent. However, I don't know why she did not participate in the tournament this time. I also don't know why she sent someone to congratulate Sir Qingya." Yun Luofeng stroked his chin and thought for a while. "Those who come are guests. Grandfather, please entertain the guests." The old man gradually recovered from his shock. Although he had not been on this mainland for long, he knew of the three famous empires. Now, the two highest-ranked empires had come to congratulate Yin Qingya. Just as the old man was hesitating, the messengers from the two empires walked forward one after another. The messenger from the Peerless Empire was an old man. He smiled amiably and said, "Old Master Yun, my prince has asked me to give you a congratulatory gift to congratulate young Master Yun on your marriage." Hee hee, a delicate laugh came from the side. A beautiful woman walked forward, smiling without showing her teeth. Her curved eyebrows were captivating. "You must be Miss Yun." Princess Qing Shuang heard about Miss Yun's great achievements in the tournament and wanted to come personally. However, something came up, so she asked me to come in her place. This is a congratulatory gift prepared by the princess. Please accept it." The old man bluntly took the box from the beautiful woman and laughed. "Servants, show the two envoys their seats." The beautiful woman smiled. Before leaving, she looked at Yun Luofeng again and said, "Miss Yun, the princess asked me to remind you to be careful of the Tianhui Empire." Everyone could hear the intention of the Flowing Moon Empire to befriend them. Therefore, everyone had a higher opinion of Yun Luofeng. Of course, Yun Luofeng did not care much about this. In her opinion, if she wanted people to look up to her, she had to rely on her own strength to stand at the top of the mainland. Although the Peerless Empire and the Flowing Moon Empire were trying to please her, if she did not have strength, why would these two empires look up to her? In the end, strength was the most important thing. Yun Luofeng slightly lowered her eyebrows, her black eyes filled with determination. After second uncle got married, it was time for her to leave the imperial city and go to the fief to develop her own power. Endless City. Within a radius of 100 li, there was nothing but flat land. The Endless City was divided into 4 parts. The East City was filled with the rich and powerful, the South City was flourishing with commerce, and the North City was filled with well-off families. Only the West City was a place where a group of people at the bottom of society lived. There were also countless wastelands that no one exploited, causing the West City to become desolate. However, the western part of the city was exceptionally lively today. There was no other reason than that the western part of the city, which had not been visited for a long time, welcomed a group of foreign guests. It was said that the leader of the group was a woman who was extremely beautiful. Dressed in white, she looked like a celestial who had walked out of a painting. She was more beautiful than any other woman in Endless City. Therefore, when the residents of West City heard about this, they all rushed over to watch the show. "Miss Yun, are we really going to take root in this western city?" Within a wasteland in the western part of the city, Greenwood was following behind Yun Luofeng. He looked at the wasteland and slightly frowned as he asked. Yun Luofeng nodded. "The land in the west side of the city is cheaper." Greenwood's mouth twitched. "I heard that Endless City was given to you by the Emperor. Do you still need to spend money to buy land on your own land?" Yun Luofeng paused and smiled. She looked back at Greenwood and said, "I don't want people to know that Endless City is managed by me for now." Chapter 1028. There was one reason that she did not mention. When she had entered the West City, she had felt that the spiritual energy in the West City was extremely suitable for cultivating medicinal herbs. Even if these medicinal herbs could not be turned into spiritual herbs, they would still be several times better than normal medicinal herbs. There was a limited amount of medicinal herbs in the divine grimoire space. If the medicinal herbs could pass through the spiritual energy in the West City first, it would be much easier to cultivate the spiritual herbs. This was why she had chosen the West City. What Yun Luofeng could not understand was that the people of Endless City had not felt the spiritual energy in the West City even though they had stayed here for so many years. Of course, if she did not have superhuman senses, she would not have noticed it either. Qingmu, bring some people and build the medical tower within 3 months. Yun Luofeng looked at Qingmu's elderly features and instructed him solemnly. Qingmu smiled. I've taken a look. The people in the West City are not very powerful, but they are very strong. If we can get the help of the people in the West City, we'll be able to build the medical tower very quickly. The people in the West City had a very difficult life. If they were offered a good enough price, why would they refuse? All right, I'll leave this matter to you. Yun Luofeng stood with his hands behind his back. Xiao Bai, accompany me on a tour of Endless City and understand the situation here. Lin Ruobai's eyes lit up and he replied with a grin, yes, master. Yun Luofeng's eyes darkened and she instinctively rubbed her right wrist. The side effects of forcefully breaking through had not been eliminated yet. Could it be that her arm was really going to be crippled? No. I can't let that happen. She had come here this time not only to develop her forces, but also for another important matter. That was to use all methods to regain the feeling in her right hand. East City. In a luxurious residence, a middle-aged man slowly put down the cup in his hand and narrowed his eyes at the guard standing in front of him. Did an outsider really buy a piece of land in the West City? The guard replied respectfully, reporting to Patriarch, that foreigner has indeed bought a large piece of land in the West City. Furthermore, this subordinate can see that the group of people seems to be very rich. Hee, the middle-aged man sneered, I don't know if those people are stupid. There are so many places in the Endless City, but they chose a desolate place like the West City. One look and I can tell that they have too much money and nowhere to spend it. Immediately go and inquire about those people, then report back to this Patriarch. Yes, Patriarch. The guard cupped his fists and respectfully retreated. Father. The young woman next to the middle-aged man frowned when she heard this. Her beautiful eyes flashed with light. You want to trick those people? These brainless people, if I don't screw them over, who else should I screw over? The middle-aged man sneered, actually, they should be thanking me for tricking them. After all, they have a lot of money and people are after them. They might even be killed because of this. Father, what do you want to do? The middle-aged man narrowed his eyes, and a cunning light flashed across his eyes. The Wu family has a piece of land in the South City. There seems to be a flaw in the land. No matter what kind of medicinal herbs I plant, they will wither very quickly. This is equivalent to a piece of wasteland. When the time comes, I will sell this land to her. The young woman looked at her father in surprise. She had not expected her father to sell the wasteland in his possession to those people. However, when she remembered that the guard had claimed that the leader of that group of people was a beautiful woman, a faint flame of jealousy rose in her heart. Her father's actions were not wrong. Who had asked that woman to be so beautiful? So, the one who had made the mistake was that woman. Chapter 1029. Southern City. In the prosperous market, Lin Ruobai looked around with her big, bright eyes. Her eyes were full of curiosity. Suddenly, a spiritual beast trapped in a cage caught her attention. The spiritual beast was green in color and as large as a peacock. Its feathers were gorgeous, its tail was long and its wings were covered with red, yellow and white eye patterns. Unfortunately, the spiritual beast seemed to be injured. It was a little dispirited and did not seem to be in high spirits. Even so, many people were attracted by the spiritual beast's beautiful and arrogant appearance. Master, it's the Blue Wan, the legendary Blue Wan. Suddenly, Little Mo's excited voice rang out in Yun Luofeng's mind. This Blue Wan seems to be seriously injured and was caught by the humans. If it's not treated in time, I'm afraid it won't live for long. Yun Luofeng raised her eyebrows and turned to look at the stunned Lin Ruobai. You like it? Lin Ruobai nodded. I don't know why, but I wanted it the first time I saw it. For no reason at all. If you like it, I'll buy it for you. She was never stingy towards the people around her. As long as Lin Ruobai liked it, so what if she gave it to her? Master. Little Mo said unwillingly. This is the blue wand. You're giving it to this girl just like that? Yun Luofeng's eyes were smiling. She ignored Little Mo and continued to speak to Lin Ruobai. However, I'm not giving it to you for no reason. I'll treat it as a betrothal gift from you, Little Mo. In the divine grimoire, when Little Mo heard Yun Luofeng's words, he felt as if he had been struck by lightning. His entire body was petrified. He was just feeling sorry for his master's actions. In the end, his master was giving him away just like that? And the kind that threw themselves at him? Lin Ruobai's eyes curved into crescent moons. Master, when will Little Mo appear? I'm starting to miss him. I've decided that I'll marry no one else but him. Hearing this, Little Mo's body trembled again and he curled up in the corner. His eyes were full of grievance. As long as that little witch, Lin Ruobai, doesn't leave, he won't leave the divine grimoire. Ha ha ha. A chubby little hand grabbed some dirt from the ground and smeared it on Little Mo's face. Then, Little Mo rolled on the ground in laughter, making a crisp sound. Xiao Shu. Xiao Mo's face darkened and he threatened, I'll throw you out if you cause any more trouble. The chubby baby's smile vanished and he frowned slightly. There was an obvious look of anger on his jade-like face. He patted the ground lightly and countless vines spread out from the ground. In an instant, Little Mo was tied up and flew into the sky. Kakik. Seeing Little Mo's embarrassed appearance, the chubby baby's mood finally improved and he once again rolled on the ground with laughter. Little Mo wanted to cry but no tears came out. He felt that the whole world was bullying him. Even a child kept tormenting him. When would these days come to an end? At the market. Everyone looked at the blue wand placed at the entrance, but no one asked about the price. They were all attracted by the blue wand's beautiful appearance, but they could also see that it would not live for long. Everyone, the owner of the shop walked out and said with a smile, this spiritual beast was just caught by the spirit pet pavilion. Before we caught it, it had already suffered very serious injuries. I don't know if it will survive. If you have a doctor in your family, you can buy it. Perhaps it will be able to cure this spiritual beast. Chapter 1030. The shopkeeper was honest. He had told the crowd from the beginning that the spiritual beast was badly injured and whether it could be healed or not would depend on their luck. Honestly speaking, I can't see through this spiritual beast's powers. However, because it's a flying spiritual beast, it's very expensive. Unfortunately, this spiritual beast is badly injured. Hence, it can't be sold at the price of a normal flying spiritual beast. The shopkeeper's eyes scanned the crowd before he continued, if anyone is willing to pay 5,000 silvers, they can take it away. 5,000 silvers was considered very cheap among spiritual beasts. Even so, there were still a lot of onlookers and no one made a bid. In the cage, the blue wand raised its head and stared icily at the humans in front of it. Its gaze was filled with humiliation and despair. The blue wand was arrogant and powerful. At this moment, it was being sold like a commodity. How could it not feel humiliated? If it still had the strength, Yun Luofeng believed that it would have slammed its head against the wall and killed itself. Master. Lin Ruobai stared at the blue wand's despairing eyes and his heart clenched. He clenched his fists tightly. It shouldn't be treated like this. It should be roaming the vast skies. Yun Luofeng glanced at Lin Ruobai and slowly walked towards the shopkeeper. She had not looked at the blue wand at all, as if she had completely ignored its existence. Here's a banknote for 5,000 silvers. She raised her hand and a banknote appeared in her hand. A devilish smile appeared on her peerlessly beautiful face. Does it belong to me now? The shopkeeper smiled as he accepted the banknote from Yun Luofeng's hand. After checking its authenticity, he nodded. Since you're willing to pay this price, this spiritual beast will naturally belong to you. I'll order my men to bring this spiritual beast back to your home now. Wait. A voice suddenly rang out from behind. Everyone spread out and made way for a path. At the end of the path, a woman in a green robe was slowly walking towards them with a group of maidservants. This woman's features were clear and elegant, like an immortal untainted by the mortal world. Her beauty was otherworldly and could cause the downfall of nations. It's Nangong Lan of the Nangong family. Nangong Lan, the #1 beauty of Endless City, the goddess in the hearts of countless men. I never thought that she would appear here as well. From the looks of it, she seems to be very interested in this spirit beast. However, who is this woman in white who wants to buy the spirit beast first? Her appearance is even more beautiful than Nangong Lan. If there is such a person in Endless City, we should know about her. In this mainland, if you wanted to be remembered by the common people, you either had to be a peerless genius, an unparalleled piece of trash, or have a breathtaking appearance. Nangong Lan had already walked in front of Yun Luofeng, her smile elegant. Miss, I'm also interested in this spiritual beast. I wonder if you're willing to let me have it? I'm willing to give you several times the compensation. As expected, hearing Nangong Lan's words, everyone sucked in a cold breath. Nangong Lan was actually interested in this spiritual beast. With Nangong Lan's personality, she would not be so vulgar as to fall in love with the appearance of the spiritual beast. Could it be that this spiritual beast had other uses? I'm sorry, my disciple has taken a fancy to this spiritual beast. I won't let you have it. Yun Luofeng's words made everyone tremble. In Endless City, there were 3 great clans, the Wu clan, the Nangong clan, and the O clan. Nangong Lan was a peerless genius of the Nangong clan that only appeared once in 100 years. She enjoyed the same treatment as the clan leader. Chapter 1031. Yet she dared to reject Nangong Lan? Nangong Lan's smile didn't diminish. There are many spiritual beasts in the spiritual pet pavilion. You can consider exchanging one for your disciple. Yun Luofeng raised his brows and glanced at Nangong Lan's beautiful face. I won't exchange anything my disciple likes even if you give me the entire Endless City. The crowd suddenly quietened down. Everyone looked at Yun Luofeng in shock. Then, their gazes turned into mockery and disdain. She dared to speak without thinking. She wouldn't exchange anything even if she gave him the entire Endless City? Could it be that her disciple's preferences were more important than the entire Endless City? Lin Ruobai stood silently next to Yun Luofeng. Her eyes were filled with smiles. That's right. I won't exchange anything I like. Nangong Lan's servant girl couldn't stand it anymore. She stepped out and shouted, Do you know who my miss is? My miss is the pearl of the Nangong family. It's fine that you didn't kneel when you saw my miss, but you dared to snatch what she likes? Our Nangong family must have this spiritual beast. If you don't want to die, then scram. Yishuang. When the servant girl finished speaking, Nangong Lan pretended to stop her. Don't be rude. She then turned towards Yun Luofeng and smiled lightly. Miss, you can see that this spiritual beast is heavily injured. I really can't bear to see it die here, that's why I want to buy it. In Endless City, only the doctors of the Nangong clan can cure it. If you really like this spiritual beast, why don't you help me? Give it a healthy life too. What she meant was that she wanted to buy this spiritual beast not because of her personal preference, but out of righteousness. She wanted to save the spiritual beast's life. Even if she was cheated of many times the price, it didn't matter. In this way, Yun Luofeng became a selfish person who only cared about his own good and didn't care about the spiritual beast's life. Miss, I advise you to give the spiritual beast to Miss Nangong. Otherwise, its treatment will be delayed and it will die. Someone in the crowd couldn't stand it anymore and stood out to criticize her righteously. Lin Ruobai was so angry that her entire body was on fire. She glared at that person. My master is also a doctor. She can cure this spiritual beast. When everyone heard this, they couldn't help but burst into laughter. Your teacher is a doctor? What proof do you have? Besides, even if she's a doctor, how can she compare to the Nangong family? In the Endless City, the Nangong clan had an extremely high prestige. Everyone believed in the Nangong clan's strength without a doubt. As for the white-clothed girl, how could an unknown young man compare to the doctors of the Nangong clan? "Miss, I'll give you 50,000 taels." "Give it to me." Nangong Lan looked pitifully at the spirit beast in the cage. "Otherwise, I really can't bear to see it die like this." Perhaps it was because of Nangong Lan's pitiful gaze that completely infuriated the crowd. "I say, how can you two girls be so unsympathetic? So what if he gave up on a spirit beast? Could it be that you would rather let it die and forcibly take it away? I originally thought that such a beautiful girl would be as kind-hearted as Miss Nangong. Looks like I was wrong. There are too many selfish people in this world. No one can be as kind and pure as Miss Nangong." Everyone's words were filled with righteousness. It was as if Yun Luofeng and Lin Ruobai were unforgivable villains. Chapter 1032. "I think you guys should stop fighting." The shopkeeper finally spoke. He smiled and said, "Why don't we let this spiritual beast choose for itself? Whoever it wants to follow can buy it." In the cage, the spiritual beast seemed to have understood the shopkeeper's words. Its cold gaze swept across Yun Luofeng and Nangong Lan. Suddenly, a voice pierced through its soul and exploded in its mind, causing its eyes to fill with shock. "Green Phoenix, follow me. Not only will I heal your injuries, but I'll also give you the power to take revenge. Whoever hurts you, you'll have to repay them tenfold." The Green Phoenix froze and lifted its head to look in Yun Luofeng's direction. Instantly, it met a pair of smiling eyes. At this moment, it faintly sensed a powerful pressure from this young lady. That pressure did not come from the young lady herself, but from her soul. The Green Phoenix's eyes darted around. This young lady must have contracted a powerful spiritual beast. No. That aura did not seem to come from a spiritual beast. After all, the aura he sensed from the young lady was not wild like that of a spiritual beast. Instead, it was full of vitality like a tree. Nangong Lan did not notice the Green Phoenix's abnormality. She smiled and walked in front of it. She lowered her body and stretched her hand over the cage, wanting to stroke the Green Phoenix's head. The Green Phoenix moved its body and avoided Nangong Lan's touch. A look of disgust appeared in its eyes. For some reason, it did not like this woman's aura. Spiritual beasts were different from humans. Humans would judge a person based on their appearance, but spiritual beasts relied on their aura. No matter how disguised a human was, in front of a spiritual beast, it was as if a mask had been removed. No disguise could escape their senses. Nangong Lan's fingers paused. She kept a smile on her face and did not feel awkward because of this. "You're heavily injured now. The Nangong family can heal you. So, are you willing to leave with me? Don't worry, I'll definitely treat you extremely well and treat you like family. I won't let you suffer any grievances." In the eyes of the world, Nangong Lan was kind and generous. Everyone else treated spiritual beasts as tools. She was the only one who would say that she treated spiritual beasts like family. Based on this statement alone, they believed that this spiritual beast would not remain indifferent. After all, if it fell into someone else's hands, it would definitely end up in a miserable state, so why would it reject Nangong Lan's good intentions? "Come on, follow me." Nangong Lan's voice was filled with temptation, causing people who heard it to feel their bones go numb, wishing that they could immediately leave with her. However, facing the smiling Nangong Lan, Qing Wan's eyes were as cold and aloof as usual, without any extra expression. "Young Miss Nangong, I will open the cage now. Whoever this spiritual beast goes to will be its master from now on." The shop owner slowly walked forward and used the key to open the cage. The reason he dared to do this was because the blue one was already heavily injured. Not to mention flying, even walking was extremely difficult. Sure enough, the Green Phoenix's footsteps seemed to be staggering, as if it had used all its strength to move out of the cage. Nangong Lan smiled confidently. She believed that the spiritual beast would choose her in the end. On the other side, Lin Ruobai's face was full of anxiety as he looked worriedly at the blue phoenix. Yun Luofeng sensed her impatience and gently patted her shoulder. I promised you that I would get this spiritual beast for you, so I'll definitely give it to you. Chapter 1033. Nangong Lan smiled gently, unmoved by Yun Luofeng's words. Her beautiful eyes stared at the blue wand as the corners of her lips curled into a confident smile. However, the blue wand did not even look at her. Its ice-cold gaze slowly fell upon Yun Luofeng. Then, under the watchful eyes of the crowd, it slowly walked towards Yun Luofeng. Nangong Lan's smile froze and her delicate and pretty face turned ashen. She clenched her fists tightly as she glared at the blue wand, who was walking towards Yun Luofeng. Even though the blue wand's body was a little unsteady, its steps were firm. It only stopped when it was in front of Yun Luofeng. Its silent actions had made its choice clear to the world. On the street, a clamor of voices rose one after another. Everyone stared at the blue wand with sympathy. This spiritual beast's injuries are so severe that its brain has been crippled. It has actually given up on Nangong Lan. It's undoubtedly digging its own grave. I don't think it's going to live for much longer. At this moment, the blue wand did not hear the clamor around it. It only felt its body grow weak and could no longer support its weight. It fell with a thud in front of Yun Luofeng. Lin Ruobai jumped in fright and was so anxious that tears almost rolled down her face. Master, hurry and save it. I don't want it to die. In Lin Ruobai's small heart, Yun Luofeng was an omnipotent being. In this world, there was no illness that she could not cure. Get out of the way. However, just as Lin Ruobai was about to walk towards the blue wand, a hand suddenly pushed her, almost causing her to stumble. Nangong Lan quickly walked towards the blue wand and lowered her head to check its injuries. She frowned and her eyes filled with worry. I'm afraid this spiritual beast won't be able to hold on for much longer. I must bring it back to the Nangong family. She then raised her head and looked at Yun Luofeng. Her expression was no longer as gentle as before as she sternly scolded, Miss, I only want to save it. I have no other intentions. If you insist on acting rashly, you'll only be harming a spiritual beast's life in vain. Can you be at ease? Just now, you've pushed my disciple. The girl's demonic voice was slightly lazy, but it stood out in the noisy crowd. Nangong Lan frowned. I was also anxious, that's why I sent her away. After all, if its treatment is delayed because of you, can you bear the responsibility? Which hand did you use to push her? Yun Luofeng raised his eyes slightly and did not answer the question. Nangong Lan's expression froze. I know that to people like you, spiritual beasts are nothing more than battle tools. However, in my heart, they have the right to enjoy life. You have no right to stop me from saving them. The emotions of the crowd were easily provoked. After hearing Nangong Lan's words, they all glared at Yun Luofeng. If not for the fact that she was a woman, they might have already rushed over and violently beaten her up. Shall Bai. Yun Luofeng turned to look at Lin Ruobai. Remember which hand she used to push you. I will avenge you later. Nangong Lan's eyebrows knitted tighter and tighter, and her expression became extremely ugly. She was about to continue scolding Yun Luofeng when she saw that the girl in white had already slowly walked towards the blue one. Does it hurt? Yun Luofeng lowered her body and gently stroked the blue wand's head. Her gaze gradually softened as she asked. Chapter 1034. The blue wand nodded strenuously. It stuck out its tongue and licked Yun Luofeng. Its eyes were filled with pleading as if it was begging the other party to save it. I can ease your pain. Yun Luofeng's voice was solemn. However, you must promise me that from now on, you must use your life to protect this girl next to me. If you can do that, I'll save your life. If you're unwilling, I'll let you die with dignity. The blue wand blinked and looked at Lin Ruobai before turning its gaze towards Yun Luofeng. Its eyes were filled with conflict. The person it wanted to be loyal to was Yun Luofeng, but she actually wanted to give it away. Furthermore, she wanted to give it away to a little girl. This was an insult to its dignity. However, the blue wand now had no other choice. It could only accept its fate and nod its head. A bad life is better than a good death. This sentence was equally effective for spiritual beasts. Of course, if it had met a perverted master who took pleasure in torturing spiritual beasts, it would be better to just die. It would be better than enduring such pain. Miss, it can't be delayed any longer. Why do you still think that your medical skills can cure it? Nangong Lan's eyes were filled with anxiety. She subconsciously glanced at the people next to her and ordered them to snatch the blue wand. Such banditry became a matter of course when it came to Nangong Lan. That's right. In everyone's hearts, Nangong Lan didn't want to snatch the blue wand away. She only wanted to cure it. In the entire Endless City, Nangong Lan was probably the only one who would be so righteous and disregard the gains and losses. Just as the people reached the blue wand side, countless vines suddenly rose from the ground around Yun Luofeng. In an instant, the vines wrapped around the people's bodies, rendering them unable to move. This turn of events had happened too quickly, so quickly that no one could react. Nangong Lan's expression changed greatly. Her beautiful eyes turned towards the vines that had tied up the guards and she clenched her fists tightly. Where on earth did this woman come from? Especially these vines, where did she get them from? Yun Luofeng ignored Nangong Lan's actions and took out gauze and a pile of medicinal herbs from his space ring. She first chewed those medicinal herbs into juice and smeared it on Qing Wan's wounds. Instantly, its wounds were recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. After applying the medicine, she wraps the wings of Cyan Wan with gauze. Soon, the blood overflows through the gauze, and the redness is shocking. Roar! The blue Wan let out a roar. It shook its body and slowly stood up from the cold ground. Nangong Lan was stunned. She quickly walked to the front of the green Wan and her expression changed drastically. I've already checked the wound of this spirit beast. Its wound is filled with venom. Other than the doctors of my Nangong family, no one can cure the venom. What kind of medicine did you apply on it? It can detoxify the poison? I don't need to answer your question. Yun Luofeng turned towards Nangong Lan and gently raised the corners of his lips. Besides, now is the time for us to settle our debts. Nangong Lan's expression changed. Miss, I was anxious to save the beast just now, so I accidentally pushed her back. Xiao Bai, which hand did she use to push you? Yun Luofeng did not answer her question and instead asked the young girl next to him. Lin Ruobai thought for a moment and said with certainty, it's her right hand. If that's the case, then there's no need for this right hand to remain. Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes slightly and the curve of his lips carried an extremely dangerous aura. The words of the master and disciple made Nangong Lan frown once again. I've already apologized for my actions. Why do you have to chase after me like this? Chapter 1035. The girl stood in the breeze, her white robes fluttering in the wind, as white as snow. She was surrounded by moving vines, and a group of men in the Nangong family's guard uniforms were struggling and wailing on the vines. Some were even cursing loudly. The girl's expression did not change in the face of these people's voices. Her black eyes were filled with an evil smile. Seeing that the young lady was walking towards her, Nangong Lan quickly drew her sword. She was a high-level heavenly spirit realm cultivator, so why would she be afraid of this woman? Everyone, you've all seen it. I've tolerated her time and time again, but this woman is insatiable. If she really thinks that I, Nangong Lan, am easy to bully, then she's gravely mistaken. Just because I have a good temper doesn't mean that anyone can bully me. Nangong Lan's voice was filled with righteousness, as if she was being forced to resist. Swoosh! Just as Yun Luofeng took another step forward, Nangong Lan made the first move. Her silver sword was as cold as a ray of light, and sword energy slashed towards Yun Luofeng's chest. Yun Luofeng raised his hand and grabbed the sword in Nangong Lan's hand. Then, under her startled gaze, Yun Luofeng grabbed her right hand tightly and twisted it. The crowd only heard a crisp sound before Nangong Lan's wrist drooped down. Shortly after, gasps could be heard from the street. They never expected Yun Luofeng to have the guts to cripple Nangong Lan's hand in front of everyone. You won't be able to touch even a single hair on my people. Scram immediately. The girl shouted, and the vines around her instantly retracted into the ground. Then, the people tied to the vines fell from the sky and landed heavily on the ground. Nangong Lan's face was ashen. She held her wrist tightly and did not make a sound despite the pain. Let's go. She took one last look at Yun Luofeng, then turned around and quickly left with the Nangong family's guards and maids. Nangong family. The man was playing with the maids when he suddenly saw Nangong Lan walk in with an ashen face. He couldn't help but whistle and said carelessly, "Isn't this our Nangong family's precious pearl?" "What? Who bullied you? Why is your face so ugly?" Nangong Lan stopped in her tracks and frowned slightly. A look of disgust flashed across her eyes. This illegitimate child staying in the Nangong family was an eyesore. If it wasn't for her father, she would have kicked him out long ago. "It's none of your business." The man smiled and walked towards Nangong Lan. "Nangong Lan, others think that you are gentle and kind, but I know what kind of person you are. Everyone says that you treat spiritual beasts like family. Only I know that you use spiritual beasts to test your poison. Countless spiritual beasts have died in your hands." The man's words caused Nangong Lan's expression to change completely. She turned to the man angrily and said, "What nonsense are you talking about?" "Nonsense?" The man smiled coldly. "If I'm spouting nonsense, then can you tell me where they went every month to look for strong spiritual beasts? But in the end, those spiritual beasts all disappeared?" Nangong Lan clenched her fists tightly and glared coldly at the man's handsome face. "You better watch your mouth. Otherwise, I'll make you regret living in this world." Ever since she saw the blue phoenix for the first time, she had been attracted to it. However, what attracted her was not its appearance but its illness. Chapter 1036. Since the blue wand's poison was rare, she wanted to bring it back for research. If she was lucky, she might even be able to cure it. According to the blue wand's constitution, if it was cured, it would become her best test subject. After all, the spiritual beast's body was different from normal people for it to be able to hold on for so long despite being poisoned. However, if the blue wand died, she couldn't be blamed. To outsiders, it could be said that the illness was too serious and the Nangong family's doctors couldn't do anything. As for why she didn't use humans to test the poison, that was because humans' bodies weren't as strong as spiritual beasts. With her poison at such a distance, those people would immediately fall to the ground and die. "Nangong Lan, I have no interest in the Nangong family and I don't want to fight with you. If you want to be the successor, you can fight for it. However, I only want to be a hedonistic son of a rich family. You don't have to send people to test me." The man held the back of his head with both hands and smiled mischievously. Hearing this, Nangong Lan instinctively glanced at him. Was this guy really not interested in inheriting the Nangong family? "I hope you can do as you say. If I find out that you're spying on the Nangong family, I won't let you get away with it." Nangong Lan fiercely flung her sleeves and turned to leave. After Nangong Lan left, the man cursed loudly. His voice echoed in the courtyard for a long time. "Fuck, do you think everyone is like you, fighting for the position of master all day long? I was living well in Wuxia. If I hadn't somehow transmigrated to this broken place, I wouldn't have been treated like this. It's all that damned woman Yun Luofeng's fault. If it wasn't for her, the laboratory wouldn't have exploded and I wouldn't have been swept to this damned place to save her. That damned woman wouldn't have died in the explosion, would she?" Thinking back to the days of debauchery in Wuxia and then thinking back to his current situation, he felt like he was walking on thin ice. As a man, he had the urge to cry. "Yun Luofeng, if I ever see you again, I'll definitely make you pay. Who told you to cause me to end up like this?" The servant girls looked at each other, not understanding what their young master was talking about. What kind of place was Wuxia? Who was Yun Luofeng? However, the man was no longer in the mood to pay attention to the maidservants. He seemed very dispirited. Although he was now the young master of a large family, he was not living well at all. At this moment, Yun Luofeng, who was being talked about by this man, was completely unaware of the situation of the Nangong family. After she had cured Qing Wan's body, she returned to West City. For convenience, Greenwood had bought a residence in the western part of the city. After Yun Luofeng returned, he directly entered the residence. But as soon as she stepped in, she heard Qing Mu talking to someone. She pondered for a while, then told Lin Ruobai to take Qing Wan to the backyard to wait for her, and walked into the hall. In the main hall, Qing Mu and a middle-aged man were sitting opposite each other. His expression was extremely unsightly, and when he saw Yun Luofeng walk in, he immediately stood up. "Miss Yun, you're back." Yun Luofeng nodded, sweeping his gaze over the middle-aged man. "Qing Mu, this is..." Qing Mu's expression darkened. "He's the master of the Wu family. This time, he's here to ask us to buy a piece of land in South City. However, I've asked around, and that piece of land is a bit strange. No matter what kind of medicinal herbs are planted, they will all wither. In other words, the master of the Wu family had come here to scam them out of their money. To ask them to buy a piece of land that couldn't even grow medicinal herbs. Wasn't he trying to scam them?" Chapter 1037. Hearing Qing Mu's straightforward words, the middle-aged man's face darkened. He harumphed and stood up. "What kind of status does my Wu clan have in Endless City? Do we need to cheat and deceive? Do you know how many people want to buy my Wu clan's land? If it wasn't for the fact that I like you, I wouldn't have sold it to you at all." What he meant was that if he sold the piece of land to Yun Luofeng would have to be grateful to him. Qing Mu's face turned cold. Just as he was about to yell in anger, Yun Luofeng suddenly raised her hand to stop him. The young girl's lips curled into a smile. Her black eyes were filled with an evil aura. Her voice carried a hint of laziness, but it contained a power that made people's hearts palpitate. "Name your price." Qing Mu was taken aback. He looked at Yun Luofeng in confusion and said anxiously, "Miss Yun, that piece of land is a piece of wasteland. There's no use for us to buy it." Yun Luofeng didn't say anything. She looked at the middle-aged man with a smile that wasn't a smile. Originally, when the middle-aged man saw the young girl's stern gaze, he hesitated in his heart. However, when he heard what she said next, he relaxed and laughed out loud. "Miss, you have good eyesight. It's no wonder I like you. My piece of land has good feng shui. Even if you can't grow medicinal herbs, you can use it for other purposes. Since you like my land so much, I won't ask for a price. 10 million. Yun Luofeng smiled. Her smile was filled with mockery, and her eyes were filled with mockery. 10 million? You really dare to ask for such an exorbitant price? Your land can't even grow medicinal herbs, so it can't be used for anything else. To be honest, I only bought it because I lack a training ground. Do you really think I would spend 10 million to buy a training ground?" The middle-aged man's eyes darkened. "Then how much are you willing to pay?" Yun Luofeng smiled faintly. She raised a finger and waved it in front of the middle-aged man. 1 million. The middle-aged man's expression became uglier and uglier. Back then, when he had obtained this piece of land, he had spent a lot of money. At first, the land was fine, but for some reason, no matter what he planted, it would wither. Some people even said that the land had been cursed. If not for this, he wouldn't have thought of using Yun Luofeng as a scapegoat. "No, I'm not talking about 1,000,000 taels, Yun Luofeng shook his head. "What I mean is, I'll buy this piece of land of yours for 1,000 taels. 1,000 taels? The middle-aged man's face was ashen. "Miss, 10 million taels of silver is only enough to buy the land in the west of the city. My land is in the south of the city. Your offer seems to be too low." Yun Luofeng's evil smile deepened as he stared at the middle-aged man's ashen face. His black eyes were so deep that the bottom could not be seen. "Do you think it's better to leave that piece of land abandoned, or to exchange it for 1,000 taels of silver? If it wasn't for the fact that no one wanted to buy your land, I'm afraid you wouldn't have come to me." The middle-aged man had thought that Yun Luofeng was so young and should be easy to fool, but he hadn't expected this girl to be so stubborn. Unfortunately, her words struck a chord in his heart. If it wasn't for the fact that no one was willing to buy his land, then why would he want to cheat Yun Luofeng? When he thought of this, the middle-aged man gritted his teeth and said, "All right, give me 1,000 taels of silver and I'll give you the deed." No matter what, 1,000 taels of silver is better than that piece of barren land. Chapter 1038. All right. Yun Luofeng's lips curled. "Qingmu, give him the 1,000 silvers for me." Qingmu was very unwilling. In his heart, that piece of land was useless to him. However, since Yun Luofeng had spoken, he could only obediently take out the 1,000 silvers and throw it in front of the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man had high hopes for today's actions. As such, he had brought the deed with him. After verifying the authenticity of the silver, he handed the deed to Yun Luofeng. "Miss Yun, I hope that we will have the opportunity to work together in the future. Goodbye." He clasped his fists and left without looking back. No one knew that at this moment, his heart was dripping blood incessantly. He had spent 3 million silvers to buy a piece of land, but he had sold it for only 1,000 silvers. Yet, he was so happy that someone had accepted it. "Miss Yun." Qingmu looked in the direction that the middle-aged man had left and furrowed his brows. "What do you want this piece of land for? Didn't I say it was to build a training ground?" Yun Luofeng smiled evilly as he looked away, his voice lazy. Qingmu smiled bitterly and shook his head. "Building a training ground in the medical tower is enough. Why waste 1,000 silvers?" He was not distressed over the 1,000 silvers, but he was not willing to be cheated by that bastard from the Wu family. "No, the training ground will be built on that piece of land." Yun Luofeng stroked his chin and narrowed his eyes. "Of course, that's just on the surface." Qingmu was stunned. "Miss Yun, what do you mean? Don't you think that place is very strange? Why did the medicinal herbs wither for no reason? So, I guessed that there must be some kind of treasure underground. That's why I bought it, so that we can go underground to search for the treasure." Hearing Yun Luofeng's words, Qingmu suddenly understood. "I was just wondering. With your personality, you are not someone who will be cheated easily. Why are you so willing this time?" So, the person who was cheated was someone else. According to Yun Luofeng, the piece of land that the Wu family had sold to her contained an extremely valuable treasure. She wondered if the Wu family would be so angry that their intestines would turn green when they found out about this. "Qingmu, I'll leave the construction of the tower to you. I will probably be leaving for a few days." Yun Luofeng's eyes flashed as he spoke solemnly. Greenwood stared blankly. "Where are you going?" "I plan to take a look at the piece of land that the Wu family sold me." South City. Compared to the hustle and bustle of the market, there was only one place that seemed quiet and desolate. There were no signs of human habitation within a radius of 5 kilometers. Weeds grew everywhere, as if no one had come to clean this place for a long time. "Little Mo, do you feel anything?" Yun Luofeng came to a halt and asked spiritually. Little Mo hesitated for a moment. "I'm not too sure, but I can feel that there is a powerful existence underground. That existence is too terrifying. Master, let's not go down. I'm scared." Ever since he had arrived on this mainland, Little Mo had always been fearless. Now, however, Yun Luofeng could clearly feel his soul trembling. It was as if it was afraid of the creature below. "Little Mo, I want to go down and have a look. If you can't stand the smell down there, wait for me here." Little Mo's voice trembled slightly. "Master, it's really dangerous down there. Let's go." "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing." Yun Luofeng gently raised her black eyes, her gaze filled with determination. "Furthermore, if I don't experience danger, how can I grow? If Yun Xiao was by my side, I definitely wouldn't take this risk. It's because he isn't here that I want to catch up to him. I can't let him wait for me for too long. No matter how dangerous it is this time, I must go down." Chapter 1039. She had a feeling that, if she were to enter the underground this time, her strength would definitely undergo a qualitative change. In order to prevent Yun Xiao from hurting for too long, she had to take this risk. All right, little Mo's voice rang out again. Even though it was still trembling slightly, it was much stronger than before. If you plan to go down, I will definitely accompany you. From the moment we formed the contract, I will accompany you in life and death. Little Mo, you don't have to force yourself, Yun Luofeng frowned. Master, I'm only afraid of the existence below. It doesn't mean that I'll be in any danger. I can still overcome this fear. After all, if I'm not by your side, you may not be able to make it through. Yun Luofeng laughed. Indeed, she and little Mo had complimented each other these days. Without little Mo, she would not be where she was today. He was equivalent to her left and right arms. She could not lose him. She slowly turned around and looked at the army behind her. She ordered, this time, you don't have to follow me. Master. Miss. The faces of the flaming steel army changed drastically. They hurried forward, their faces filled with anxiety. If it was not for the fact that Master had no confidence in this expedition, she would not have left them here. Miss, I want to follow you. Qin Yan's little face was filled with determination. No matter how dangerous it is, I want to follow you. Yun Luofeng smiled. I don't want you to follow me because I can't let anyone else know about my goal this time. You must train here to achieve the goal of concealment. Miss, Qin Yan wanted to say something but was interrupted by the young girl's demonic voice. I'm very confident in myself. I will definitely come back alive to see you. And all of you, don't disappoint me. Her bright black eyes swept across the army slightly, and her expression was solemn. Master, Yi Ling stepped forward and joined her fists. She said firmly, we definitely won't disappoint you. Don't worry. Yun Luofeng nodded slightly. After taking one last look at the army, he released the gold-seeking rats. Dig a hole that leads to the ground for me. Squeak squeak. Hearing this, the rats immediately rushed over to dig a hole. Their digging speed was already fast, and there were many gold-seeking rats. Thus, it didn't take long for a black hole to appear in front of Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng walked towards the entrance of the cave. As she stepped into the cave, she paused for a moment, turned around, and ordered, after I leave, you guys fill up the cave to prevent others from discovering it. Yes, Master. Yi Ling cupped her fists and replied respectfully. As soon as he finished speaking, Yun Luofeng disappeared into the pitch-black cave. It was pitch-black underground, and a black fog could be vaguely seen in front of them. Heavy snores could be heard coming from the black fog, echoing in the soundproof underground. The further they went into the black fog, the more Yun Luofeng felt little Mo's body tremble. It was as if there was a monster in front of him. It filled his heart with fear. Little Mo, this black fog is formed from spiritual energy. Yun Luofeng's brows grew heavier. Furthermore, when I was outside just now, I could feel that the spiritual energy in the sky is too thin, causing those medicinal herbs to be unable to survive. If I'm not mistaken, the thing underground has inadvertently absorbed all the spiritual energy within a radius of 5 kilometers. Chapter 1040. Spiritual qi was an extremely important existence on this mainland. Whether it was humans, spiritual beasts, or medicinal herbs, they all relied on spiritual qi to survive. Of course, the spiritual qi on this mainland had become so thin that spiritual herbs could no longer be formed. This was also why the spiritual herbs that Yun Luofeng cultivated were so effective. Master. Xiao Mo gritted her teeth and spoke in a trembling voice, if spiritual qi is too dense, it will turn into a fog. Normally, spiritual qi fog is green, but the fog that we're seeing has turned black. This proves that this spiritual qi is poisonous. If anyone else had charged in without any precautions, they would have been poisoned to death immediately. If you want to pass through this black fog, you must hold your breath. If you accidentally breathe it in, you'd better run away quickly. I understand. Yun Luofeng looked at the black fog and curbed the aura on her body. She held her breath and even closed her pores. Then, she carefully walked towards the black fog. It was a blur inside the black fog and she could not see anything clearly. She could only walk forward based on her own senses. After walking for an unknown period of time, her eyes lit up. She had finally walked out of the black fog. To a spiritualist, no matter how dark a cave was, they would be able to see their surroundings clearly. Of course, this black fog was an exception. As such, the moment Yun Luofeng stepped out of the black fog, she noticed that there were many skeletons in front of her. After these skeletons had died, their treasures had all been preserved and were not damaged at all. "Master, we're rich." Xiao Mo's voice was no longer as afraid as before. Instead, it was filled with excitement. These must have been powerhouses who had come to investigate the situation in the past. The treasures on them are all priceless. Take that pearl next to your foot for example, it's a legendary spiritual pearl. If you can refine this spiritual pearl, your power will definitely increase by more than a level. Yun Luofeng's heart skipped a beat. She silently bent down and picked up the green pearl that contained extremely strong spiritual qi and kept it in her bosom. "We can't waste a treasure like this." Yun Luofeng's expression was one of certainty. "However, I remember that when the Wu family first bought this piece of land, the withering of the medicinal herbs had not happened yet. It only happened after that. But in my opinion, this cave has existed for a long time, at least tens of thousands of years." Little Mo was silent for a long time before he spoke. Ling Zhu's previous master was a peerless master 10,000 years ago. However, he disappeared after that. I didn't expect that we would meet Ling Zhu and that master here. Unfortunately, no matter how powerful they were back then, they had all been reduced to a pile of bones. Little Mo, since we've taken the relics left behind by these people, we should take their corpses and let them rest in peace. This was the last thing she could do for them. Take it as a reward for accepting their belongings. All right. After Little Mo said this, his figure suddenly appeared in front of Yun Luofeng. He was also holding a chubby baby in his arms. When the chubby baby saw Yun Luofeng, he started giggling and kept opening his arms wide for a hug. "Little Mo, why did you come out?" Hearing the girl's words, Little Mo blinked and smiled brightly. "Master, we are one. No matter how much danger there is, I will face it with you. Besides, in such a dangerous situation, perhaps that little brat Xiao Shu will be of some use." Chapter 1041. Mischievous Brat. Yun Luofeng glanced coldly at the chubby baby who was giggling. It seemed that Little Mo held a deep grudge against the small tree. Otherwise, he would not have called it a mischievous brat. "Let's go." She retracted her gaze and continued forward. The deeper they went, the heavier Yun Luofeng's heart became. Even her breathing became a little stifled. It was as if the thing in the depths of the cave was too terrifying. It was so terrifying that even her face was filled with solemnity. Suddenly, Little Mo stopped in his tracks. His eyes slowly widened as he stared in front of him in horror, as if he had seen something terrifying. Similarly, Yun Luofeng also saw the snoring monster on the ground. As for why it was called a monster, it was because its entire body was green, and its green scales reflected a cold light in the dark cave. It had a total of 9 wings on its body, and its huge body occupied the entire cave. It had fallen into a deep sleep and was snoring heavily. The snoring caused the entire cave to tremble. "Master, we have to run quickly." Little Mo's voice was full of panic. "This fellow is a 9-winged sky dragon. If we don't run now, it will be too late." At this moment, Little Mo's face was pale and his voice was trembling. He forced himself to calm down before saying these words. 9-winged sky dragon? Yun Luofeng's heart gradually sank as her gaze fell on the door behind the 9-winged sky dragon. At this moment, she felt that the thing inside the door would be of great help to her. The 9-winged sky dragon, a fierce beast from ancient times. It was powerful and incomparably ferocious. It once occupied a part of the sea and was the king. Later on, in a battle with humans, it destroyed thousands of human troops in one breath. A mouthful of flames burned the entire mainland for months without stopping. With a flap of its wings, mountains and rivers collapsed and the world came to an end. A sweep of its tail turned everything into a wasteland. However, no one expected that the nine-winged sky dragon, which had disappeared in the long river of history, would appear here. If we don't leave now, it will be too late. Yun Luofeng's heart sank. Even without Little Mo's words, she could feel the power of this spiritual beast. That's right, she really wanted to improve her strength as soon as possible to find Yun Shao. However, this did not mean that she would proceed without any assurance. She had always regarded her life as very precious. Little Mo, let's go. Yun Luofeng raised his black eyes and said with determination, when I have enough strength, I will definitely come back to this place. That was because the thing inside the door could possibly change her life. Unfortunately, the door had been blocked by the nine-winged sky dragon with its body, as if its duty was to protect the things behind the door from being stolen. After leaving the end of the cave, Yun Luofeng once again returned to the black fog. She looked at the corpses on the ground, raised her hand, and put them into the divine grimoire space. Generally speaking, besides Yun Luofeng, the divine grimoire space was unable to accept any other humans. However, if they were merely a pile of bones, then they wouldn't be included in this scope. Suddenly, Yun Luofeng saw a piece of yellowed paper appear where one of the skeletons had been moved. The paper seemed very weak, as if it could be blown away by a gust of wind. Yun Luofeng carefully picked up the paper, but just as her hand touched it, the yellowed paper had already started burning. Soon after, a blurry figure appeared in front of her. Chapter 1042. After a while, that figure gradually became clear, and a tall figure stood in front of Yun Luofeng. This was a handsome man, with a blue sash behind his head. He looked gentle and elegant, and had a graceful demeanor. I don't know how many years it has been, and I don't know who has come here. But I don't mind telling you my purpose. The man smiled, but his handsome face was filled with the vicissitudes of life. You must be very curious why I would hide my last words so deeply. That's because those who can find this place are definitely not just the people of my evil monarch manor. But those who can remember to help me collect my remains are also the disciples of my evil monarch manor. So if you can get out of here alive, I will hand over the position of the evil monarch manor's ruler to you. Evil monarch manor? Yun Luofeng raised her brows slightly. Why had she never heard of this force before? The evil monarch manor has existed since ancient times. They only have one purpose, and that is to find the nine-winged sky dragon and avenge our ancestors. Unfortunately, I can't even pass the first stage, so how can I talk about revenge? However, the purpose of the evil monarch manor sending people here this time is not only for the nine-winged sky dragon, but also for the thing that the nine-winged sky dragon is guarding. It's said that obtaining that thing will allow one to touch that door. I came here for the evil monarch manor. And I was attacked by the nine-winged sky dragon's subordinates. Yun Luofeng had been very curious earlier. In this cave, there were no other spirit beasts other than the nine-winged sky dragon. It turned out that those spirit beasts were already dead, which allowed her to pass unimpeded. And she had previously thought that the reason why these people died here was because of this black fog. Now that she thought about it, she was wrong. The formation of the black fog should have happened after the Wu family's plot of land. But these people had clearly been dead for too many years, so it was definitely not caused by the black fog. Luckily, the nine-winged sky dragon has always been in a deep sleep. As long as we don't try to enter that door, he will not wake up. That gave me time to leave this will. I don't know if the evil monarch manor is still around, but if it is, I hope that you can revive the evil monarch manor. At this point, the man's figure became blurry again, gradually disappearing in front of Yun Luofeng. Like a light breeze, it dispersed with a single blow. After the man disappeared, a jade pendant fell to the ground. The words Evil Monarch Manor were written on it, and it was extremely eye-catching. Master, this jade pendant is a good item. Little Mo excitedly said, as long as you wear this jade pendant, you will be able to block all illusions. In other words, if someone used an illusion to harm Yun Luofeng in the future, with this jade pendant in hand, any illusion could be broken. Yun Luofeng was startled. Her fingers caressed the jade pendant on her waist. After thinking for a moment, she put it away. I don't need this jade pendant for now. She could not bear to take off the jade pendant that Jun Fengling had given her when they first met. Between the two, she preferred the piece that Jun Fengling had given her. Little Mo, don't you think there's something wrong with this place? Yun Luofeng turned to Little Mo and asked. Little Mo pondered for a moment and said, there is a large spirit-gathering formation underground that absorbs all the spiritual energy from above. What I don't understand is that this cave has a long history and the Wu family's land has only been in trouble for a few years. Chapter 1043. This place is often discovered by people. Perhaps someone came here and accidentally triggered the array here. Also, I'm worried that if the nine-winged sky dragon absorbs enough spirit chi, it might wake up immediately. This was what worried Yun Luofeng the most. After all, Endless City was her territory. She would never let the nine-winged dragon harm Endless City. Master, do you have a way to break this spirit-gathering formation? Break it? Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a faint smile. Why would I break this spirit-gathering formation? I remember that in the book Zhu Qian gave me, there was a method to reverse the flow of the spirit-gathering array. Originally, this spirit-gathering array absorbed the spirit chi from the outside and fed it into the nine-winged sky dragon's body. I can let the spirit chi in the nine-winged sky dragon's body spread out and transfer it to the land outside. She paused before continuing, this way, not only can the Steel Flame Regiment cultivate faster, but it will also make it easier for me to defeat the nine-winged dragon in the future. If the spirit energy in the nine-winged dragon's body flowed out, its strength would decline. When that happened, she would have a greater chance of winning against it. Little Mo's eyes lit up. Good. Let's do that. The formation this time was not as stable as before, especially since it was tens of thousands of years old. Therefore, by the time Yun Luofeng found the center of the formation and completed the change, half a month had already passed. She stayed in the cave for half a month, obviously unaware of what had happened outside, West City. A medicine tower was erected high above the vast land, forming a landmark. At this moment, Yi Ling looked coldly at a group of bandits in front of her and said expressionlessly, "If you're not here to join the medicine tower, get out immediately." The leader of the group of bandits was a boorish man with a large saber on his back. He walked up to Yi Ling and sneered, "Brat, cut the crap. This West City is under my jurisdiction. If you want to build a medicine tower here, you must pay a fee. 1,000,000 taels, not 1 cent less. If you can't pay up, get out." Unlike other districts, the West City was a place where good and bad mixed together, leading to bandits running amok. In bandits' mind, if Yi Ling and the others had power and influence, they wouldn't have chosen the Western City. Usually, those who came to the Western City were a bunch of useless people. Scram. Yi Ling opened his thin lips and spat out a word coldly. At the same time, everyone in the army drew their swords and glared angrily. Originally, the medical tower had been managed by Greenwood and Guiyang, and they had obeyed Yun Luofeng's orders to stay here and train. However, this morning, after Greenwood and Guiyang had gone to the neighboring city, these people had come to make trouble. The helpers in the western part of the city hurried to the southern part of the city to get Yi Ling and the others back. This was also the reason why they didn't stay and wait for Yun Luofeng. "Oh. How dare you tell your grandpa to scram? In the West District, no one dares to talk to me like that. Men, smash this medical tower. Let's see how long these people can be so stubborn." The burly man shouted at the top of his lungs. His ferocious eyes swept over Yi Ling and the others as he sneered. "Brothers and sisters, master isn't here. We must protect the medical tower and fight to the death with these people." Zhongling drew her long sword and quickly charged towards the group of bandits. Her sword flashed, leaving a mark on one of the bandits' arms. Chapter 1044. If not for the bandit's quick reflexes, his entire arm might have been chopped off. "Damned girl. How dare you hurt me? You're digging your own grave." The bandit's eyes hardened and he swung his palm towards Zhonglinger. Zhonglinger nimbly dodged to the side and dodged the attack. It was also because of the two of them that the bandits and the army reacted and started fighting each other. For these bandits to be able to rule over the West City district, they were clearly not weak. Of course, the Iron Steel Corps had all undergone Yun Luofeng's training, and each of them had displayed abilities that surpassed their level. So, in this battle, neither side had the upper hand. After fighting for a long time, the bandit leader finally raised his hand and shouted, "Let's retreat." Before he left, he even said, "Just you wait, I'll go get some people now. You'll all die soon." Then, he left without looking back. Qin Yan looked at the mess in the medical tower with a sorrowful expression. It wasn't easy for the medical tower to be completed. Who knew that something like this would happen? Miss isn't here and we can't even protect the medical tower. I feel so useless. Yi Ling walked to her side and gently patted her on the shoulder, comforting her. You've improved very quickly these past few years, so you don't have to blame yourself. Even though she said this, Qin Yan's clear eyes still revealed sorrow. After the bandits left, the residents of the West City district trembled as they walked out from a corner. They kindly comforted Qin Yan. "Miss, I advise you to give them some money so that they won't be in trouble." "Auntie, you don't need to say anything. We will never bow our heads to a group of bandits." Zhong Linger looked at the auntie, her bright eyes flashing with determination. "Miss, I know that you're very powerful, but those bandits were only a small group." They could tell that the two old men were not simple, so they waited for them to leave before coming. The old men that the auntie mentioned were Qing Mu and Guiyang. But... She paused and carefully looked outside the door. She deliberately lowered her voice and said, "Above these small groups, there's a larger bandit group called the Defiant Bandits. There are 3 leaders in this bandit group, and they're all at the Venerable Realm. Especially the leader of the bandits, he's already a high-level Venerable Spiritualist." Venerable Spiritualist? The hearts of the Steel Flame Legion sank. The bandit group is on the mountain not far away. It will only take half an hour to go back and forth. You guys should hurry up and think of a countermeasure. I'll leave first. After the aunt dropped these words, she was afraid that she would drag herself down, so she hurriedly walked out. Qin Yan clenched her fists tightly. This was the first time she had felt so powerless. Leader, Zhong Linger looked at Qin Yan and said in a firm tone, "Master will return soon. Before she returns, we must protect the medical tower." Bang! Unexpectedly, just as Zhong Linger finished speaking, the door of the medical tower was kicked open. Immediately, an angry voice came from outside the door and echoed throughout the entire medical tower. "Who bullied my people just now? Come out and accept your death." As soon as he finished speaking, the middle-aged man led a group of people in. Beside him was the bandit leader who had just escaped. "Third Master, it's them." This group of people came to the West City. Not only did they not hand over the money, they even dared to hit people. I only asked them to hand over 1 million taels of silver. I even told them that the money was to be given to you, Third Master. If they handed over the money, Third Master would protect them in the future. Who would have thought that this group of people would not buy it, and would even look down on Third Master? Chapter 1045. The man who was addressed as Third Master took 2 steps forward and stabbed the broadsword in his hand into the ground. His fierce eyes swept across the crowd and he said angrily, "In this place, who dares to look down on the defiant bandits?" Qin Yan was furious and was about to step forward when Yi Ling raised his hand to stop her. He shook his head at Qin Yan and turned to the man. "We won't give you a single copper coin." Third Master laughed out loud. "Let's see if you guys still have the courage to say such words. Men, beat them up. Beat them until they're willing to surrender." Yi Ling's eyes turned cold and he stared expressionlessly at the laughing Third Master. His expression gradually turned serious. These people did not look like the small gang that had been defeated earlier. Especially this Third Master, whose strength had reached the Venerable Realm. Fuck. How dare a bunch of bandits be so arrogant? Let's fight them to the death. The members of the Steel Flame Regiment could no longer hold back their anger. Without waiting for Yi Ling's orders, they drew their weapons and charged forward. They would rather die standing than lower their heads to these bandits. The flames of war could break out at any moment. The members of the defiant bandits were all powerful and the members of the regiment had only cultivated for a few years. How could they be a match for these bandits? Soon, they were at a disadvantage under the bandits' attacks. Even so, no one took a step back. They fought fiercer and fiercer. No matter how deep their wounds were or how serious their injuries were, they still rooted their feet in the ground and stubbornly held on. This was because behind them lay something that they had sworn to protect with their lives. Third Master narrowed his eyes. He saw something called the soul of a soldier in this group of people. These people were like well-trained soldiers. They would rather die on the battlefield than abandon their comrades and flee. Perhaps, to them, death was a form of glory. They were not afraid of pain or fatigue. Like steel, they had indestructible strength. And this was the Steel Flame Regiment. Wait. Third Master raised his hand and spoke slowly. In an instant, everyone in the bandit group stopped what they were doing and stood neatly behind him. I'll give you 3 days. Third Master looked up. In 3 days, make a choice. Give me 1,000,000 taels of silver, or submit to me. If he subdued this group of people, his power would surely expand by several times. Tui. In the army, a man with blood all over his face spat on the ground and said mockingly, "You want us to submit to you? Dream on. Let me tell you, we won't give you a single copper coin and we won't submit to you." Third Master's eyes turned cold as he continued, "You don't have to rush to answer me. I'll give you 3 days to think about it. Rather than staying in this place, it was better to seek refuge with a stronger force. What future can a small medical tower like this have?" Master, as a young man, Third Master? It was no wonder that Third Master was so confident. After all, the leader of the heaven-defying bandits was a high-level venerable realm expert. Moreover, he had long heard that the medical tower's master was a young lady. Hence, he had always believed that the woman was not as powerful as the great leader. Let's go. Then, Third Master turned and walked out of the medical tower. His eyes were full of confidence as if he was certain that these people would eventually submit to him. Chapter 1046. Just like how water flows downwards, who wouldn't want to rely on a more powerful force? How could a small medical tower compare to a bandit group? Treat the injured brother's wounds. Yi Ling was a little tired. He leaned against the corner of the wall and closed his eyes. I'll go to the neighboring city to find Master Qingmu. Yi Ling, your wounds, they're no big deal. We only have 3 days. I must rush back within that time. Yi Ling opened his clear eyes and they were filled with determination. Since their master was not here, they must protect the medical tower with their lives. All right. Qing Yan nodded. Leave the matters here to me. You, be careful on the road. Although she said that, her eyes were filled with worry. Yi Ling pursed his thin lips. His hand clutched his injured shoulder tightly as he walked towards the door with some difficulty. Before he could step out of the doorway, the sunlight in front of him was shrouded by a shadow. What followed was a familiar voice. What happened in the half a month that I was away? The girl's languid voice startled Yi Ling. He raised his head mechanically and stared blankly at the girl who had appeared at the door. Under the sunlight, the girl's robes were whiter than snow. She was absolutely beautiful. Her unruly black eyes were not as calm as they used to be. There was a fierce anger hidden in them. Master. Yi Ling's voice was choked. You're finally back. I'm sorry. We weren't strong enough and the medical tower has become a mess. Yun Luofeng did not speak. His black eyes continued to scan the hall of the medical tower. Who can tell me what happened here? Miss, Qing Yan felt Yun Luofeng's anger and her body trembled. It was the defiant bandits who came to rob us. We did not agree to hand over the silver, so they destroyed the medical tower. Yun Luofeng's expression was very calm. If it were not for her turbulent eyes, perhaps no one would have noticed the boiling anger in her heart. Qing Yan, distribute the spiritual herbs to the injured and let them consume them. A proud light flashed across the girl's black eyes. Once you've recovered, leave with me. Miss, where are we going? Qin Yan blinked her eyes and looked at the young girl in confusion. Yun Luofeng paused, and the sharpness in his eyes intensified. Let's go wipe out the defiant bandits. The young girl's words made everyone's heart skip a beat, and they straightened their backs. Isn't your heaven-defying bandits very powerful? We have someone backing us up. Who's afraid of who? West City. Due to the arrival of the defiant bandits, all the residents were forced to close their doors. After waiting for the bandits to leave, some people walked out of the door in twos and threes. However, at this moment, an auntie was blocked by someone. She looked at the young girl standing in front of her and recognized that she was the head of the medical tower. Do you know where the defiant bandits are? The young girl stood in front of the auntie and asked lazily. The auntie was stunned for a moment before she kindly advised, Miss, it's best if you don't provoke that bandit group. Not only are they very strong, but they also kill without batting an eye. You just need to tell me where they are. Yun Luofeng frowned slightly and continued to ask. The auntie sighed helplessly. They're on a mountain outside Endless City. It's not far from here. An hour's journey should be enough. Chapter 1047. Thank you. Yun Luofeng thanked her and turned to walk towards the city gates. The auntie shook her head, her eyes filled with regret. Just as she was about to leave, the girl's voice suddenly drifted over from the front. Use angelica, gold and silver seeds, lilies, and dried 8-horned worms to make a medicinal soup. Take it for half a month and you'll be able to cure the black spots on your waist. The auntie was stunned. She hurriedly turned around and looked in the direction the girl had just left in. How did this girl know about the black spots on her waist? Recalling the herbs Yun Luofeng had mentioned, the auntie hurriedly walked towards the medicine shop. She was treating a dead horse like a living horse. This black spot had accompanied her for many years and would appear every month like ants crawling on it. She had seen some folk doctors but they had no solution. As for those famous doctors, she could not afford them. Outside Endless City, the towering mountain peak was extremely quiet. It was so quiet that only the sound of footsteps could be heard. This should be the mountain that the auntie mentioned. Yi Ling's eyes turned cold. Master, if I'm not wrong, we'll find the defiant bandits if we continue to climb higher. Yun Luofeng nodded slightly. A cold light flashed across his black eyes. If you see anyone from the defiant bandits, kill them. There's no need to show mercy. Yes, Master. Everyone's eyes lit up and they replied respectfully. At this moment, the 3 leaders of the defiant bandits were gathered together, holding beauties in their arms as they drank and chatted merrily. Big brother, second brother, you're finally back. Recently, a group of people came to the West City and they even built a medical tower in that rundown place. The 3rd Regiment leader took a big gulp of wine and laughed. It's really ridiculous. They think that by building a medical tower, they can recruit all the doctors in the world. The 1st leader raised his brows. Is that so? That's right. The 3rd leader chuckled. However, the guards in the medical tower are all well-trained soldiers. That's why I want to recruit them. The 1st leader frowned when he heard this. 3rd brother, do you know where these people came from? How could the 3rd leader not know what the great leader was thinking when he saw how cautious the great leader was? He immediately patted the great leader's shoulder in relief. Big brother, don't worry. The Endless City is now the territory of the Heavenly Cloud Nation, and there is only one general in the Heavenly Cloud Nation called Jian Qingguan. As far as I know, the people in the Western City call the Tower Master as Miss Yun. There is no Miss Yun in the General's mansion. Miss Yun? The frown on the great regiment commander's face deepened. He sensed that something was amiss, but he couldn't pinpoint it no matter how hard he tried. Hence, he decided not to think too much about it. He raised his wine glass and downed it in one gulp. 3rd brother, the Endless City isn't very peaceful now. You'd better not go there. Don't get yourself into trouble. The 3rd Regiment commander smiled disapprovingly. Don't worry, big brother. I know who I can provoke and who I can't. Moreover, I believe that the guards and maids in the medical tower will come to us sooner or later. What future would he have if he followed the medical tower? You might as well follow us to conquer the world. As he spoke, a bandit rushed in a panic. He staggered a few times and almost fell to the ground. 3 regiment commanders, something bad has happened. A group of unreasonable people have killed their way in. Many of our brothers have been killed and injured. What? The great regiment commander slammed the table and stood up angrily. Who has the guts to break into our defiant bandits? Second brother, third brother, let's go. Chapter 1048. As soon as he finished speaking, his figure turned into a ray of green light and instantly rushed out of the room. When the second and third commanders saw this, they did not dare to stay any longer and quickly left. In the courtyard, countless people were lying on the ground and wailing in agony. The team in front of them was like a grim reaper. They were cold and merciless, and there was only one word in their eyes: kill. At the forefront of this team was a young girl in white. The sword in her hand was already stained with blood. The blood had gathered together and turned into beads of blood that flowed along the blade to the ground. At that moment, the young girl's expression was very calm. However, even under her calm expression, she could not conceal the murderous intent emanating from her body. Who is so bold as to cause trouble in my defiant bandits? With a furious roar, a man in a navy blue robe stood in midair. His sharp gaze was like a sword as he looked at the young lady in white below. When he saw the courtyard full of corpses, the anger in his eyes intensified. Who are you? Why are you attacking my defiant bandits to kill people? Defiant bandits? The corners of the young girl's lips curled up slightly. Her sinister smile was filled with endless murderous intent. You people dare to talk about defying the heavens? The man's eyes darkened and he said coldly, I don't know if I can defy the heavens, but I do know that you will definitely die here today. Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, the man's body turned into a long sword and quickly charged towards Yun Luofeng. His entire body was surrounded by a hurricane and the entire sky was filled with dust. His aura was as sharp as a long sword that could cut through iron like mud. It was as if he would immediately pierce through the young girl's body. When they saw the appearance of the great leader, the members of the defiant bandits cheered. They looked at Yun Luofeng and the others with eyes full of anger and hatred. No one could kill their way into the defiant bandits. No one could continue to live after provoking the bandit group. As long as the great leader took action, no matter how powerful this young girl was, she would immediately die here. The second and third commanders had also rushed over. When they saw the great leader take action, they finally relaxed. Die! The great leader roared angrily. His body had already reached Yun Luofeng. The distance between the two of them was only a few millimeters. In just a breath's time, his body would be able to penetrate the girl's chest. The bandits cheered even louder. The faces of the 2 guild leaders lit up with pride. But at that moment, a left hand appeared in front of the great commander, thus, he, who was still charging forward, was stopped by this hand. The great commander's body floated in the air. Shock was written all over his face and his eyes were filled with disbelief. The cheers stopped, the expressions of the 2 guild leaders froze. Their eyes looked as though they had seen a ghost as they stared at the young girl who had easily stopped their great guild leader. The commander stared blankly at the young girl crying in front of him. His eyes widened, and he was so shocked that he couldn't even form a complete sentence. Not only are you unable to defy the heavens, you also don't have the strength to kill me here. The young girl's eyebrows slightly slanted upwards, evil and playful, but her voice revealed a murderous aura, making one shudder. Boom! With a flick of her wrist, the head commander's body spun a few times in the air. Then, with a fierce push, he was thrown out. Chapter 1049. Silence. The entire courtyard was deathly silent. The commander covered his chest with his hand as he spat out a mouthful of blood. His originally cold face was extremely pale and his eyes were filled with disbelief. Yun Luofeng took 2 steps closer to him, I'll give you a chance. Hand over all the people who went to the medical tower today and maybe I'll let you die with some dignity. Medical tower? Commander. The commander's eyes widened. This young woman is the master of the medical tower? Third brother. Suddenly, he shouted angrily. He turned angrily towards the trembling 3rd Regiment leader and asked coldly, "Didn't you say that the medical tower's strength is average and that it has no backing? Now, can you explain to me what's going on?" The 3rd commander shivered. I don't know. If the medical tower is really rich and powerful, they wouldn't have gone to the West City. Hearing the 3rd commander's words, the commander was so angry that he wanted to beat her up. Then, he turned to look at Yun Luofeng with a fierce look in his eyes. "Young lady, I know that you're very strong, but I can see that you're also a high-level venerable realm cultivator. You haven't become a holy spirit yet. However, because your cultivation method is a little special, I'm no match for you." The 1st commander paused for a moment before he sneered, "But the 3 great clans in Endless City all have holy spirit experts. Do you think you can compare to those 3 clans with just your strength?" Yun Luofeng raised her eyebrows slightly and signaled the commander to continue. Endless City was not the territory of the Tianyun nation. Therefore, it was not surprising that the 3 big families had holy spirit masters. Seeing the young lady's smiling expression, the commander's tone gradually softened. He continued, "If you want to survive in Endless City, you must hide your strength. Otherwise, if the 3 big families find out about your strength, they will definitely kill you to protect their own safety." In other words, if Yun Luofeng were to annihilate the heaven-defying bandits, her glorious achievements would definitely be publicized. At that time, when the 3 great families saw her talent and strength, they would definitely not allow her to continue living in this world. Yun Luofeng smiled. Her smile was very beautiful. Even a peerless beauty could not compare to this. "You mean, you want me to let you go?" The Grand Guild leader nodded. "That's right. As long as you let me go, we will definitely keep our mouths shut and not let anyone know about your talent." How could the people from the 3 great clans not be on tenterhooks if news of a person breaking through to become a venerable spiritualist at such a young age got out? They would definitely kill this girl before she grew up. Your plan is not bad. Unfortunately, I, Yun Luofeng, will never deliberately hide my sharpness. A light breeze brushed past. The young girl stood under this breeze, revealing her sharpness, displaying her peerless elegance. The commander panicked. Just as he was about to say something, he saw the young girl calmly turn around. Her light words reverberated throughout the entire courtyard. "Fire, fire, burn down the lair of this heaven-defying bandits for me. Don't leave a single one alive." The girl's voice was cold and emotionless. Whenever she thought of the injuries on the army, the killing intent in her heart intensified. Even if there were innocent people among them, she would not let them go. Moreover, this heaven-defying bandits had committed many evil deeds. She did not believe that there would be innocent people among them. According to the conduct of these people, if she did not return this time, perhaps when she returned to the medical city, she would be greeted by the corpses of the army. Chapter 1050. The flames ignited in the courtyard and spread throughout the entire mountain peak. Cries of agony could be heard from within the flames. It was heart-wrenching and extremely horrifying. "Let's go." Yun Luofeng did not even look at the people within the flames. He brushed his sleeves and walked down the mountain path. Within a day, the news of the destruction of the defiant bandits spread throughout the entire Endless City. Naturally, there were those who rejoiced and those who were worried. The ordinary citizens cheered endlessly. All these years, they had suffered a lot. The defiant bandits had always done all sorts of evil. They had taken everything from women to women. If they saw beautiful women, they would forcibly take them away. If they tried to stop the bandits' evil deeds, they would be beheaded by them. How many years had it been? They had lived in fear here for so many years. Now that they could finally be at ease, how could this not be worth cheering for? Of course, compared to the ordinary citizens, some forces that were on par with the bandits were full of worry. They didn't know who annihilated the bandits, nor did they know the objective of those people. Thus, they were worried that after those people annihilated the bandits, they would look for trouble with other powers. What would they do then? However, very quickly, a piece of news came from the West City. It was said that the defiant bandits had brought people to break into the medical tower and injured the guards of the medical tower. Therefore, the tower master of the medical tower had destroyed the defiant bandits in a fit of rage. Thus, the medical tower, which was previously unknown, became a household name overnight. However, everyone was trying to find out the origins of the medical tower and why it had such great power. Just as everyone was feeling puzzled, the medical tower suddenly announced a day's news. Tomorrow at noon, the medical tower will be officially established. All heroes in the world are invited to visit. At this moment, those who were curious about the medical tower could not restrain their gossipy hearts and rushed around to spread the news. As a result, the entire Endless City was in an uproar because of this. The next day, at noon, the dazzling sun shone down on every corner of the West City. At this time, at the West City gate, countless people were peeking their heads out and discussing. Suddenly, the door to the medical tower was pushed open. When the sunlight shone into the medical tower, everyone saw a pure white wall that shone faintly in the sunlight. "Welcome to my medical tower," Greenwood smiled as he walked out of the medical tower and said, "Now, this old man will show everyone around the first level of the medical tower." Everyone could no longer suppress their curiosity, and some people could not help but exclaim, "In that case, hurry up and bring us in. I want to see how different this medical tower is compared to the other powers." Faced with this person's rude voice, Greenwood was not angered at all. A smile appeared on his elderly face. "Everyone, please follow me." With that, he turned around and walked into the medical tower. The medical tower was surrounded by transparent medicine cabinets. The medicinal ingredients in those cabinets were clearly reflected in everyone's eyes. Although these medicine cabinets were very precious, they could still be bought in the market. However, what was shocking was that beside the medicine cabinets, there were also many medical books. Everyone knew that to doctors, medical skills were their lives. Unless it was their own disciple, they would not pass their medical skills on to anyone else. But this medical tower was actually casually placing medical books around? Sensing everyone's shock, Greenwood smiled. "Since these medicinal ingredients are placed here, anyone can take them out. However, the prerequisite is that they must exchange for them with medicinal ingredients of the same value." Chapter 1051. "Grandmaster, why are these medical books placed here?" a young man couldn't help but ask. Greenwood turned his head and looked at him in surprise. "Aren't you asking obvious questions? The medical books are naturally placed here for people to read. As long as you're a member of the medical tower, you have the right to read them." The young man's heart trembled as a look of joy flashed in his eyes. "You're saying that as long as you join the medical tower, you can read these medical books as you please?" Greenwood nodded. "That's right, anyone who joins the medical tower can read any medical book as they please. Moreover, our medical tower has also set up a consultation hall. If you have any illnesses, you can come to the consultation hall for treatment, and you can also choose any doctor you want. In this continent, doctors would not easily treat illnesses. Even if you paid a large sum of money, you might not be able to invite them." But Greenwood said that they had the right to choose a doctor. However, Greenwood paused for a moment. "Our medical tower does not accept money for treatment. You can only receive medicinal ingredients as your consultation fee. The higher the rank of the medical tower, the more valuable the treatment fee will be." Every level of the medical tower was not very big, so in a short while, they had finished touring the first level. The group of people walked to the stairs and jumped up. However, before they had even stepped onto the stairs, they were stopped by Greenwood's voice. "Wait!" Everyone turned around and looked at Greenwood's old face in confusion. "Grandmaster, we've finished touring the first level, so we want to go to the second level." Greenwood shook his head. "The second level is not open to the public." "What?" The group of people were shocked. "Not open to the public?" What did that mean? "I'm sorry, but our medical tower has a rule that only those who have passed the first level can enter the second level." Greenwood smiled. "Of course, The medical books on the second level are definitely more valuable than the ones on the first level. I can guarantee that none of you have seen these medical books before. If you don't believe me, you can go read the medical books on the first level. I'm sure that the doctors here will be able to determine whether or not these books are valuable. Greenwood looked around, a confident smile in his eyes. Many of these people were doctors, so when they heard Greenwood's words, they immediately went to the bookshelves and quickly took out a book and began to flip through it. The more they read, the more shocked they became. Some of them were so excited that their hands were trembling, unable to hold on to the books in their hands. This is the method to treat dark moon sores? Oh my God, in order to treat a patient with this condition, I flipped through many ancient books, but I couldn't find this method. I can't believe I actually saw it here. Ha ha ha, it turns out that using silver needles can deepen the effect. This is the first time I've heard of it. In addition, I didn't know that the ointment made from Tianshan snow lotus and thousand leaves grass can quickly remove scars. Miracle, this book is a miracle. If the first level has such a miraculous book, what about the second or third level? After reading the contents of the book, everyone's eyes lit up and they quickly turned to look at Greenwood. At this moment, their breathing quickened. Master, may I ask how we can join the medical tower? Do we need to be assessed? A faint smile appeared on Greenwood's face. Even if you're not a doctor, as long as you're interested in medicine, you can join the medical tower. However, if you want to enter the second level of the medical tower, you must undergo an assessment. Those who pass the assessment will be given a pass to the second level. Chapter 1052. The medical tower's original purpose was to recruit doctors from all over the world. No matter how strong a person was, they could all join the medical tower. However, these people could only stay on the first level. If they wanted to enter the second level, it would not be so simple. Grandmaster, I want to join the medical tower. The young man was overjoyed and hurriedly said. There's no rush, I still have a few things to give out, Greenwood said with a slight smile. Firstly, the medical tower will not restrict anyone's freedom. Even if you join the medical tower in name, you will still have your freedom. You don't have to stay in the medical tower at all times. Secondly, you can read the medical books on the first level as you please. However, if you want to obtain medical books on the second level, you must exchange them for medicinal ingredients. Furthermore, those medical books cannot be divulged to outsiders. Anyone who divulges them will be punished with the crime of betrayal. Everyone expressed their understanding towards Greenwood's words. After all, the medical books in the medical tower were far too valuable. If they were to be divulged, it would be a great loss to the medical tower. Today, I'm only taking you to tour the medical tower. If you want to join the medical tower, you can come to the medical tower tomorrow to register. At that time, I will respectfully await your arrival in this medical tower. Greenwood maintained a smile on his face as his voice sounded out. As his words fell, everyone's hearts were moved. Even those who were not doctors were incredibly excited. The reason was because of the existence of the medical tower. Perhaps in the future, they would no longer have to worry about falling sick. Everyone, if you don't want to leave, you can continue to tour the first level. This old man still has matters to attend to, so I won't be accompanying you. Greenwood cupped his fists as he turned and walked towards the second level. After Greenwood left, the rowdy crowd became even more rowdy, and their voices continuously sounded out in the hall of the first level. I really don't know who could take out so many valuable medical books. I heard that the medical tower's tower master is a young woman who is as powerful as a tiger. She flattened an entire mountain with 1 foot. What 1 foot? I heard that the woman blew a breath of air at the defiant bandits, and the entire defiant bandits was destroyed. If Yun Luofeng could hear these words, he would understand what it meant to be a rumor. Flattened an entire mountain with 1 foot? Annihilating the defiant thieves in 1 breath? These words were getting more and more ridiculous as they spread, to the extent that she was no longer a human being in those people's hearts. It was a pity that the person who had caused such a commotion had given the medical tower to Greenwood and was strolling around with little Mo. Little White isn't here. You've finally come out? Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and looked at the youth beside him. he said with a smile that was not a smile. Little Mo curled his lips. It's all because the little tree doesn't want to stay in the grimoire space. That's why I brought him out for some fresh air. Ha ha ha. It was the first time the sapling had left the grimoire space, and it was curious about everything. It kept waving its tiny arms, and its crisp laughter echoed throughout the street. Suddenly, Yun Luofeng stopped. His gaze focused on the back of a figure not too far away. She had a feeling that she had seen this figure somewhere before. That person seemed to feel a gaze on him from behind. He slowly turned around and glanced at Yun Luofeng. In that instant, both of them were stunned. Chapter 1053. The sloppy-looking man froze on the spot the instant he saw Yun Luofeng. He stared at the young girl in astonishment. After a moment, his astonishment turned into anger, and he let out a loud roar. "You're so arrogant!" he shouted. Yun Luofeng. This angry shout caused the entire street to tremble. The passers-by all looked over curiously, as if they didn't understand when this young and beautiful girl had offended the eldest young master of the Nangong family. Yun Luofeng subconsciously rubbed his ears. "You don't have to be so loud, I can hear you." The man was flustered and walked towards Yun Luofeng with a face full of anger. He glared at her fiercely and said angrily, "Yun Luofeng, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't have come to this damned place. Don't you have anything to say to me now?" Yun Luofeng glanced at the dainty girl who had just been embraced by the man, and the smile in his eyes deepened. "I think you should thank me. Otherwise, you wouldn't have had the chance to have so many beauties." The man had originally thought that when they met again, this woman would at least apologize to him. After all, if it weren't for saving her, he wouldn't have transmigrated to this damned place. Yet, she was so confident about it. "You win." The man gritted his teeth fiercely. Who asked this woman to be his only friend in Wuxia? He really couldn't be angry at her. The Nangong family's guards didn't know what had happened. They hurriedly walked forward and stood guard by the man's side. They instantly drew their swords and pointed them at Yun Luofeng. "You better apologize to our young master. Otherwise, the Nangong family will never let you off." After saying this, the guard turned to the man with a flattering smile. He looked like a dog that wanted to be praised by its owner. Slap. Suddenly, the man raised his hand and slapped the guard's face. Then, he kicked the guard who still didn't understand what was going on, causing him to fall to the ground. "Young master," the guard covered his cheek and looked at the man with an aggrieved expression. He didn't understand what he had done wrong. In a fit of anger, the man went forward and kicked him a few more times. "Bullshit. This is this young master's friend. If you dare to disrespect this young master's friend, it's equivalent to disrespecting this young master. Men, drag this fellow away." The guard was stunned. Wasn't it the young master who asked her to apologize? He was just following his young master's instructions. How did this girl become young master's friend? "Go." The man walked forward and put his arm around Yun Luofeng's shoulder. He unrestrainedly flicked the hair on his temples. "We haven't seen each other for so many years, let's go have a good drink." "Damn it, this is not a place for people to stay." Xiao Shu looked at the arm resting on Yun Luofeng's shoulder and giggled. He raised his hand and a vine attacked from behind, piercing into the man's chrysanthemum. Roar! Instantly, the entire street was filled with the man's heart-wrenching screams. Who ambushed me just now?" The man turned around angrily, his gaze unruly as he looked around. His hand was still covering the injured chrysanthemum flower. It was so painful that he couldn't even stand straight. Kakik. Xiao Shu laughed even more happily and danced with joy. His tender white face was filled with a brilliant smile. No one would have thought that the person who had ambushed the man just now was a child in swaddling clothes. Chapter 1054. "Xiao Shu, you did a good job," little Mo giggled as she looked at the chubby baby in her arms. She lowered her voice and said, "You have to remember, your father is Yun Shao. Only he can get close to your mother. If any other man approaches her, you'll break his chrysanthemum." The tragic man had never thought that one of his unintentional actions would cause his chrysanthemum to be crippled. Little Mo, come and support him. Let's go to the restaurant to rest. Yun Luofeng's eyes glanced at little Mo thoughtfully. Those deep black eyes seemed to have seen through everything. Little Mo made a cute face and handed Xiao Shu to Yun Luofeng. She then walked over to support the man's stumbling body. Yun Luofeng, are these two children your relatives? The man looked at little Mo and Xiao Shu and asked curiously. Little Mo puffed out her chest and said confidently, this child is my younger brother. His name is Yun Shu. My name is Yun Mo. We are both Yun Luofeng's sons. Sons? The man's mouth fell open in shock. He couldn't recover for a long time. After a while, he turned to look at Yun Luofeng and cursed, fuck, I haven't seen you in a few years and you even have a child? Tell me, which man was so fearless as to marry you? In his heart, Yun Luofeng was a demon. That year, when they first met in China, he was shocked by this woman's beauty. As a result, he displayed his natural instincts and went up to tease her. Then, he was beaten until he couldn't get out of bed for half a month. From then on, Yun Luofeng's reputation spread through the entire school. No one dared to provoke her anymore. It was also because of this that they met and became friends who went through thick and thin together. Shinamo, you talk a lot. Yun Luofeng narrowed her eyes. She clenched her fists so tightly that her knuckles made a crisp sound. The sound made the man's handsome face break out in a cold sweat. He laughed awkwardly, my name isn't Shinamo anymore. It's Nangong Yuni. Don't call me by the wrong name. Little Mo, drag him inside. Yun Luofeng winked at Little Mo and walked into the restaurant. Little Mo understood and quickly dragged the man's body to the restaurant, ignoring the man's wailing. In his previous life, Yun Luofeng had found the divine book of medicine in the library a long time ago. Therefore, Little Mo had been by Yun Luofeng's side for several years. Naturally, she knew that Nangong Yuni and Yun Luofeng knew each other. Even though Nangong Yuni had fallen deeply in love with Wuxia University's department belle, he had never forgotten how this scoundrel had tried to strike up a conversation with his master. In the past, he was unable to avenge his master. Now, how could he vent his anger? In the private room of the restaurant. Luxurious and serene. Xiao Mo dragged Nangong Yuni's body in and threw him on the ground, causing Nangong Yuni to cry out in pain. Yun Luofeng, where did your son come from? Why is he so strong? I picked him up. Indeed, Little Mo was picked up by him. The two beauties who had been hugged by Nangong Yuni walked in. When they saw Nangong Yuni on the ground, they were so shocked that their faces turned pale. They hurriedly helped him up and asked worriedly. Eldest young master, are you all right? I'm fine. Help me sit down. Chapter 1055. Nangong Yuni shook his head and said. The two beauties looked at Yun Luofeng with resentment, as if blaming her for throwing Nangong Yuni to the ground. However, since Nangong Yuni didn't say anything, it wasn't good for them to say anything. Not long after, the waiter brought over the menu. Yun Luofeng casually ordered a few dishes and handed the menu to the waiter. The two beauties seemed to be used to it. They sat on Nangong Yuni's left and right. The woman on the left wore a green robe with a red dot between her eyebrows. She was extremely seductive. She looked at Yun Luofeng and smiled charmingly. Miss Yun, where is your husband? Why isn't he with you? I wonder what kind of expression your husband would have if he knew that you were eating with another man. Because this woman in green was beautiful, she had always been doted on by Nangong Yuni. Therefore, she didn't care about Yun Luofeng. So what if Yun Luofeng was the eldest young master's friend? Could it be that the eldest young master would punish her because of a few words she said? Nangong Yuni's expression had already darkened bit by bit. His eyes were already filled with anger. His sharp gaze was like a knife as it shot towards the woman in green. However, the woman in green didn't notice Nangong Yuni's gaze and continued, Miss Yun, I'm doing this for your own good. I'm afraid that you and your husband will have a conflict, so I'm warning you. After all, if it were me, after marriage, would never go out with any man. Her words were clearly directed at Nangong Yuni. First, she was pointing out Yun Luofeng's fickleness. Second, she was expressing her unwavering loyalty. She was also telling Nangong Yuni that Yun Luofeng wasn't a good person. How could a married woman who still fooled around with men be a good woman? Hearing this, Xiaomo chuckled. Auntie, I thank you for my mother's good intentions. My father has always respected my mother. If my mother says 1, he won't say 2. If my mother says east, he definitely won't go west. If you slander my mother like this, I'll think that you're jealous of her. After all, my father can go to the kitchen, go to the living room, beat his love rivals, and keep his chastity. With a peerless man like my father here, do you think my mother would be tempted by some womanizer? In Xiao Mo's heart, Yun Xiao was an invincible existence. In this world, it was impossible for anyone to compare to him. You. The green-robed woman's face turned red with anger, but she was interrupted by little Mo before she could finish her sentence. To answer your previous question, why isn't my father here? That's because, if a peerless man like my father appears, what if he gets entangled by a shameless person like you? That won't do. You're so ugly and so old. My father will definitely not like you. You might even disgust them to the point of vomiting. The green-clothed woman was so angry that tears streamed down her face. She turned her head and looked at Nangong Yuni, feeling wronged. Eldest young master, this brat bullied me. Bully you? Nangong Yuni played with the teacup in his hand and sneered. Why do I feel like you're the one being overbearing towards a child? Is this your upbringing? The green-clothed woman was stunned. She had never thought that Nangong Yuni, who had always indulged her, would say such words. Nangong Yuni laughed mockingly. His fingers tightly grasped the green-clothed woman's chin, and his voice was cold and merciless. Chapter 1056. This little fellow is right. You're ugly and old, and you think too highly of yourself. Do you know why I haven't had the pleasure of visiting you for so long? It's because your appearance makes me lose my appetite. If it weren't for your good zither skills, I wouldn't even bother to look at you. The green-robed girl's body trembled. Her beautiful tearful eyes stared at Nangong Yuni in shock. She didn't dare to believe that Nangong Yuni would say these words. In the entire Endless City, who didn't know that the Nangong family's eldest young master, Nangong Yuni, loved beauties and respected women. He was even known as the flower guardian god. He would never say anything that would hurt a woman. Yet, she heard the world's most vicious words. Why aren't you scramming? Nangong Yuni shouted coldly, I feel like I'm insulting my eyes every time I look at you. Wah! The green-robed girl finally couldn't help but burst into tears. She covered her face, ran out of the private room, and fiercely slammed the door. Nangong Yuni took out a handkerchief and wiped the hand that he used to hold the green-robed girl's chin. He then looked at the other beauty beside him. What are you still holding on for? Hurry up and leave. The beauty stood up, bowed, and left. Before she left, she subconsciously looked at Yun Luofeng with curiosity in her eyes. The women of this world are too self-righteous. Nangong Yuni sneered and lazily leaned against the back of the chair, especially those who overestimate themselves and want to compete with you. Do they think they're worthy? Perhaps it was because he had caught a glimpse of Yun Luofeng all those years ago, but Nangong Yuni still held a great place in his heart. Moreover, that year, he also knew that he couldn't catch up to Yun Luofeng, so he gave up on this idea. Who knew that under a lucky coincidence, they would become lifelong friends? So, Nangong Yuni believed that a man who could make Yun Luofeng willing to stay with him for a lifetime was definitely the best of all men. He really felt that he couldn't compare. Yun Luofeng calmly took a sip of tea. Haven't you always liked beauties? You let them go just like that? How can those women compare to you? Haven't you heard of this saying? Women are like clothes, brothers are like limbs. Although you are a woman, in my heart, you are my only brother. For you, I can give up any woman. Nangong Yuni used his fist to hit his chest and solemnly vowed. Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes. Women are like clothes? Her voice was filled with threat, causing Nangong Yuni's body to tremble. How could he have forgotten that the person in front of him was also a woman? This, cough cough, Nangong Yuni awkwardly coughed twice. I'm talking about the two women I just chased away. Besides, it's true that I like beauties, but I've always kept my chastity, so they didn't suffer any losses. That was the truth. Due to Yun Luofeng's understanding of Nangong Yuni, he also understood that this man wasn't the hedonistic and dissolute person he portrayed himself to be. His flirtatiousness was only on the surface. In fact, he was a very responsible fellow. Yun-yi, tell me, how did you come to this place? Yun Luofeng put down his teacup and raised his eyebrows. When Nangong Yuni heard this, his stomach filled with anger, and he resentfully glared at Yun Luofeng. Isn't it all because of you? It's all because of you that the laboratory exploded. Immediately after, I woke up and became the Nangong family's young master. Fortunately, my face didn't change, so you recognized me at a glance. Chapter 1057. The two of them had gone through thick and thin together in their previous lives. With just one glance, they could recognize each other in the vast sea of people. Oh right, Yun Luofeng, can you explain to me what exactly is going on? Hearing this, Yun Luofeng subconsciously turned to look at little Mo. She raised her eyebrows slightly. She naturally understood that little Mo had something to do with Nangong Yuni's transmigration. However, the treasury of medicine was very important to her. No matter how much she trusted Nangong Yuni, she would never tell him about it. Thinking of this, Yun Luofeng pondered for a moment. I'm the same as you. After I woke up, I came here. As for what happened, I don't know. Nangong Yuni was a little depressed. Looks like it won't be so easy to leave this damned place. Yun Luofeng smiled slightly. I don't think there's anything wrong with this mainland. Since we're here, let's make the best of it. What we need to do now is to survive in this mainland. In the past, Yun Luofeng came to this mainland from China alone. Now that she had met Nangong Yuni, she felt like she had met an old friend in a foreign land. Haha. Nangong Yuni laughed out loud. Since we're here, let's make the best of it. This sentence is right. I won't continue to worry about it. As long as we continue, we'll eventually return to China. Oh right, Yun Luofeng, I haven't seen you here before. Did you just come to Endless City? Yun Luofeng took a sip of tea. That's right, this is indeed my first time in Endless City. If that's the case, then I'll give you a simple explanation of the powers in Endless City. Nangong Yuni leaned lazily against the back of his chair, crossed his arms, and said with an unruly smile, there are a total of 3 great families in Nangong City. Unfortunately, the Nangong family that I belong to is one of them. If anyone in Endless City bullies you, come find me. I'll bring my men to avenge you. I'm the young master of the Nangong family after all, so I still have that bit of power. However, Nangong Yuni paused, then continued, if you meet the people from the medical tower, remember to take a detour. Yun Luofeng, who was originally enjoying her tea, almost choked when she heard Nangong Yuni's words. She put down her teacup, wiped the tea from the corner of her mouth, and glanced at Nangong Yuni strangely. Why do I have to take a detour when I see the medical tower? Nangong Yuni glanced at Yun Luofeng. You came too late. You don't know what happened in Endless City recently. I heard that the medical tower's tower master is a vicious and merciless demoness. Fortunately, Yun Luofeng wasn't drinking any water right now. Otherwise, he would definitely have sprayed it all over Nangong Yuni's face. She and little Mo looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. She-devil? Yun Luofeng turned to Nangong Yuni and asked. Nangong Yuni nodded his head. It said that the demoness strength is extremely powerful, comparable to a giant dragon. She has incomparable strength, and her appearance is strangely ugly. Her temper is eccentric. If you accidentally provoke her, quickly run for your life. Otherwise, before I can bring people to save you, you will die at her hands. Yun Luofeng blinked blankly. Unparalleled strength? Extremely ugly? When did these rumors start spreading? Nangong Yuni clearly did not see the confusion in Yun Luofeng's eyes. He continued, furthermore, this demoness flattened the mountain where the Defiance bandits were at with 1 foot yesterday. In one breath, she completely annihilated the bandits. Of course, this is only a rumor. I also know that it's an exaggeration. However, the fact that she was able to annihilate the Defiance bandits proves her strength. Chapter 1058. Little Mo couldn't help but cough. His small face turned red and he almost laughed. So, in the eyes of the world, his master was actually so terrifying. So much so that they were afraid of her existence. Yun Luofeng's mouth twitched. I won't provoke anyone for no reason. She originally wanted to tell Nangong Yuni why she came to Endless City, but now that she heard these words, she didn't know what to say. Fortunately, she closed her mouth and didn't say anything. That's good, Nangong Yuni sighed in relief. He raised his hand and rubbed Yun Luofeng's head. When you were in Wuxia, you often fought with people because of a disagreement. But it's different now. On this mainland, danger lurks everywhere. If you're not careful, you'll lose your life here. Yun Luofeng's face was serious. Don't worry, I'm not that impulsive person anymore. Now, I won't casually hit people. Then I'm at ease. Nangong Yuni's heart relaxed. But just as he finished speaking, there was a bang and the door to the private room was smashed open. What followed was a mocking voice. Nangong Yuni, so you're here too. Now that this young master wants to use this private room, you immediately, bang. Before he finished speaking, a teacup appeared in the air and instantly smashed towards the young man who appeared at the door. The man didn't even have time to react before the teacup smashed into his face. Immediately, blood flowed from his nose, turning it bright red. Dry mouth. Yun Luofeng slightly raised his eyebrows, a cold light flashed in his evil eyes. Why haven't you left yet? Nangong Yuni was stunned. Didn't she just say that she wouldn't casually hit people? Didn't she just say that she wasn't an impulsive person? What was this? The other person didn't even say a word and she directly made a move. She didn't even give the other person time to react. But, Nangong Yuni slammed his palm on the table. Beautifully done. Motherfucker's patience. Facing this kind of person, you have to beat them until they're convinced. Wuxi, Nangong Yuni turned to the young man who appeared at the door. He raised his chin and said in an unruly tone, you want me to give this private room to you? Dream on. Get lost. Don't force me to make a move. Wuxi wiped the blood from his nose, and his eyes turned red. He said angrily, Nangong Yuni, you're just an illegitimate child of the Nangong clan, yet you dare to make a move against this young master? Men, capture these two for me. Let the Nangong family go get them. The Nangong clan and the Wu clan had always had a bad relationship. Now that he had the chance, he would definitely not let these two people go. Bang! Yun Luofeng picked up another teacup and threw it at Wuxi. This time, Wuxi was completely prepared. She leaned to the side, wanting to avoid the sudden attack of the teacup. However, the teacup seemed to have eyes of its own. It tilted along with his body and finally smashed hard on the bridge of his nose, causing him to cry out in pain. I'll count to 3. Disappear. Otherwise, none of you can leave. Yun Luofeng said expressionlessly as he swept a glance at Wuxi. Wuxi glared fiercely at Yun Luofeng. You won't let us go. Could it be that you want to treat us to tea? Hearing this, Yun Luofeng didn't waste any more words. She took out a dagger from her sleeve and aimed it at Wuxi's heart. The girl's voice was lazy and evil. It was like a demon from hell, causing people to feel an inexplicable sense of fear. Chapter 1059. 2. The dagger in her hand was already aimed at Wuxi's heart. As soon as the third number came out, she would immediately throw it. Wuxi's expression changed greatly. He quickly ran out of the room and disappeared without a trace in just a second. The Wu family's guards saw their young master leave and also hurriedly left, afraid that the dagger in Yun Luofeng's hand would fall on them. It seems like evil people really need evil people to grind them down. Nangong Yuni smiled and shook his head. Whether it's in China or this mainland, provoking you is equivalent to provoking a demon. Indeed, evil people needed evil people to grind them down. If you were kind, he would only bully you even more. But if you were more ruthless than him, he would be afraid of you. What's with the illegitimate child he mentioned just now? Yun Luofeng put away the dagger and raised her eyebrows at Nangong Yuni. Don't tell me you're so miserable, possessing an illegitimate child's body. No wonder this guy wanted to return to China so much. Nangong Yuni's face was full of helplessness. Come to think of it, the Nangong family's patriarch, who is also the father of this body, met my mother first. Moreover, the two of them even secretly tasted the forbidden fruit. Originally, my father wanted to marry my mother, but the Nangong family's current matriarch schemed against my father all those years ago. After drinking, they had an affair. She even falsely accused my mother of having an affair with someone else. My father believed it, so he left my mother. All these years, my mother has always been living outside. It wasn't until she passed away not long ago that I was brought back to the Nangong family. That's how I got the title of illegitimate child. Yun Luofeng's finger lightly tapped on the table. When she raised her head, she inadvertently saw the hatred in Nangong Yuni's eyes. Clearly, after coming to this mainland, Nangong Yuni already had deep feelings for his mother. Naturally, he would bear a grudge against the instigator of this matter. You want revenge? Yun Luofeng glanced at Nangong Yuni and asked. Nangong Yuni nodded. Yes, I want it very much. That man made such a huge mistake. Even if he treated me well now, it wouldn't be able to appease my hatred for him. However, before my mother passed away, she kept muttering his name. I also want to send him to accompany my mother, but I know that if I kill this man, she will definitely not be happy in the underworld. What's more? Nangong Yuni paused. That man only expressed his apologies for my disregard for all these years. From beginning to end, he never expressed any guilt towards my mother. He also never went to her grave to offer a stick of incense. So, I can never forgive him. Obviously, even until now, the Nangong family's patriarch still believed that Nangong Yuni's mother had an affair with another man. Thus, from the beginning to the end, he had not been willing to see her. Nangong, I will help you. Yun Luofeng lightly held Nangong Yuni's hand. I will make the person who framed you and your son pay the price. Not only was Nangong Yuni her best friend from her past life, he was also the only person in this world who understood her past. Therefore, she would not let anyone hurt him. Forget it, Nangong Yuni shook his head. The Nangong family's influence is too strong. I'm still not their opponent. I don't want to be a burden to you. However, give me a few more years. As long as I have a few more years, I will definitely reach the pinnacle of the Nangong family and avenge her. Chapter 1060. Yun Luofeng didn't say anything else. She had already made up her mind. She wouldn't let go of anyone who had harmed Nangong Yuni. The sun was setting. Yun Luofeng and Nangong Yuni said goodbye at the entrance of the restaurant. Just as she was about to turn and leave, a woman in a green dress appeared in front of her. That woman was staring at her with hatred and jealousy. You're a married man, yet you don't follow your womanly ways and seduce a man. Do you think that by seducing the Nangong family's eldest young master, he will give you his heart? What a joke. Eldest young master has a woman he deeply loves. No matter your identity or status, you can't compare to the woman in eldest young master's heart. The woman Nangong Yuni deeply loved. Yun Luofeng raised her eyebrows slightly. It seemed that this guy had met the woman he loved on this mainland. But why hadn't he mentioned this before? Yun Luofeng's eyes turned and she looked at the woman in green with a smile that wasn't a smile. What kind of person is the woman in his heart? She wanted to understand Nangong Yuni's situation and know if she could help him. The woman in green snorted coldly. The woman eldest young master loves is the eldest daughter of the O family, one of the three great families. If it weren't for the fact that eldest young master is a bastard and has a low status, the eldest daughter of the O family would have agreed to marry him long ago. The eldest daughter of the O family is very outstanding. You can't enter eldest young master's heart. Yun Luofeng's face darkened and a cold light flashed in his narrowed eyes. Low status? The woman in green was stunned. She didn't understand what Yun Luofeng meant. Yun Luofeng slowly walked towards the woman in green. You want to get on the boat of Nangong, but you think that his status is low as a bastard? Suddenly, Yun Luofeng reached out and tightly grabbed the woman in green's neck. The woman in green's expression changed and turned pale. She looked up at Yun Luofeng with eyes full of fear. If I hear you say that his status is low again, I don't mind letting your head fall to the ground. Get lost. Yun Luofeng raised his hand and flung the woman in green away. The green-robed woman coughed and staggered up from the ground. She no longer dared to offend Yun Luofeng and hurriedly left. Master, little Mo turned to look at Yun Luofeng. It seems that this Nangong uni is truly a tragedy. In your past life, he confessed to you and was beaten up by you. Afterwards, he fell in love with the department's beauty, but before he could confess to her, he was dragged to this mainland by you. Who would have thought that even after coming to this continent, his relationship would still be fruitless? The woman he liked despised his identity. Hearing little Mo's words, Yun Luofeng was silent for a moment before saying, "It's too early to speak. If the eldest young lady of the O clan is also loyal to the Nangong clan, but she has to give up because the O clan doesn't agree to it, then I'll do my best to help her." Little Mo curled his lips in disapproval. Little Mo, let's go back. I want Greenwood to investigate the O clan. After saying this, Yun Luofeng walked toward the medical tower. At this moment, Yun Luofeng had no idea that in one day, the medical tower had become famous for thousands of miles. Even the cities near the Endless City knew of the existence of the medical tower. As a result, countless doctors had rushed over to join the medical tower. Because of this, when Yun Luofeng returned to the medical tower, he saw that the main door of the medical tower had been blocked by a stream of people. Yun Luofeng wanted to cut through the crowd, but at this moment, a hand reached out from the side and fiercely pushed him. Cut the queue. Hurry up and line up at the back. Chapter 1061. Caught off guard, Yun Luofeng took 2 steps back. Her eyes narrowed, and her pitch-black gaze landed on the young man who had just pushed her. This man was quite handsome, with delicate features. When he saw Yun Luofeng's gaze, his face reddened and he said awkwardly, "Don't look at me like that, it's clearly your fault. So many of us are queuing up, but you're the only one who wants to cut the line." Instantly, everyone's gaze fell on Yun Luofeng, their eyes full of blame. "Little girl, this is your fault. How could you cut the line for no reason?" "That's right, we've already queued up for an entire afternoon to get into the medical tower. Why did you cut the line?" These people's unbridled criticism made little Mo's heart fill with anger. He glared fiercely at the person who had reprimanded Yun Luofeng. Just as he was about to speak, a hand suddenly stretched out in front of him, blocking him. The young girl smiled, her demonic black eyes staring deeply at the young man. Her slightly lazy voice rang out under the setting sun. "Your name?" The young man was stunned. "Mu Chu." "Mu Chu." The smile in Yun Luofeng's eyes deepened. "The fickle Mu Chu." Mu Chu's face turned red again, and the anger in his eyes surged. "My admiration is a longing, not a fickle one." Just as the crowd was swarming in, Qing Mu squeezed his way out of the medical tower. When he saw Yun Luofeng surrounded by the crowd, he was stunned for a moment, then quickly walked over. "Miss Yun, you're back." "Miss Yun?" Whether it was Mu Chu or the others, they were all stunned by the way Qing Mu had addressed her. They had originally thought that Yun Luofeng had come to register with them. They had never thought that she had originally belonged to the medical tower. Yun Luofeng nodded slightly. She pointed at Mu Chu and smiled evilly. "Master Qing Mu, bring this guy to my room to see me." Yun Luofeng still maintained her initial respect towards Qing Mu, which was why she had addressed her as master. Because of this, the people who had originally been suspicious of Yun Luofeng's identity were dispelled. Although they had heard that the tower master was a young woman, it was impossible for her to be the one in front of them. If she was the tower master, she wouldn't have called Qingmu master. Mu Chu watched as Yun Luofeng left. He clenched his fists tightly by the side of his legs, and a look of struggle flashed across his eyes. Let him meet her in her room? This woman was stunningly beautiful, but she was actually but he had no other choice. For the purpose of his visit, he had no choice but to sacrifice his body. Thinking to there, Mu Chu deeply breathed in and slowly followed Greenwood into the medical tower. The others looked enviously at Mu Chu as he left. Even though they did not know the relationship of this young woman, they could imagine that she had quite a bit of status in the medical tower. If they could obtain her favor, their status in the medical tower would also rise. It seemed that it was better to be a young and handsome man who could walk a path of no return. For people like them, they could only fight with their lives on the line. Medical tower. Mu Chu silently followed behind Greenwood. In the end, he could no longer suppress his curiosity and asked, Master Qingmu, where are you taking me? Greenwood turned to look at Mu Chu. Miss Yun has already said that she wants you to see her in her room. Naturally, I'm taking you to see her. Chapter 1062. But Mu Chu looked at the winding staircase. This is already the 8th floor. As far as I know, if we go any higher, we'll reach the medical tower's owner's territory. Every floor of the medical tower represented an identity. For example, the 8th floor was where the elders lived. If they continued up, they would reach the tower's owner's residence. Mu Chu couldn't help but feel suspicious. Could it be that this woman had some sort of relationship with the medical tower's owner? Qingmu coldly laughed. Don't ask so many questions, just follow me. As he spoke, he continued to walk up the stairs. Seeing this, Mu Chu didn't say anything else, and hurriedly followed, the 9th floor. After reaching the door, Qingmu stopped and turned to look at Mu Chu. Miss Yun is waiting for you here. Go in and see her. Mu Chu's expression froze, and he clenched his fists. He was so nervous that he was sweating profusely, and his breathing was a bit ragged. As if he had made up his mind, his hand slowly fell on the door, and he gently pushed it open. He had expected that Yun Luofeng would be lying on the bed, her body covered by a thin veil, and that she was using a soul-attracting technique on him. As for him, he was even more prepared to sacrifice himself. However, when he saw the scene in the room, he couldn't help but stare blankly at the door. Within the room, there was an unruly aura. The young woman was lazily lying on the chaise longue, an evil aura emanating from her. Her clothes were as white as snow, and she looked arrogant and domineering. Her hands were crossed on her thighs, and her eyes seemed to smile as she looked at Mu Chu, who was standing in the doorway. Mu Chu gritted his teeth, and forced himself to calm down as he walked in. Bang! Qingmu slammed the door shut, causing Mu Chu to break out in cold sweat. His expression became more and more awkward, and his fingers uneasily gripped the hem of his clothes. I know why you've called me here. Yun Luofeng raised her eyebrows. Then why don't you tell me why I've called you here? Mu Chu's expression was somewhat unsightly. If I'm not wrong, your position in the medical tower is very high, and you're even on good terms with the medical tower's owner. As long as you let me join the medical tower, I'll do anything for you. Yun Luofeng's eyes narrowed. Suddenly, she laughed. That smile of hers was nothing more than that. Under Mu Chu's momentary shock, Yun Luofeng raised his left hand slightly, whoosh. Countless vines sprouted out of the room and bound Mu Chu's body tightly in an instant. Mu Chu's face turned even paler. He had been prepared to sacrifice himself, but he never thought that the one he met would be a pervert. Yun Luofeng slowly walked towards Mu Chu, only stopping when he was in front of him. His devilish eyes slanted up and down as he chuckled. Your body is too shriveled, and you don't even have a pack of abs. You have a serious lack of nutrition, and your appearance is too ordinary. You wouldn't be able to find me in a crowd. Why do you think I would be interested in your body? Mu Chu's expression froze once again. Although he was not the most handsome man on the mainland, he was still extremely handsome and delicate. However, in her words, he had become ordinary. Indeed, to Yun Luofeng, who was used to seeing Yun Zhao's face, any man was too ordinary to her. Furthermore, Yun Luofeng swept her gaze over Mu Chu. Just by looking at your body, I can tell that you're definitely lacking in the bedroom. I wouldn't go looking for trouble with a man like you. Chapter 1063. Cold sweat trickled down Mu Chu's forehead. He tried to break free from the vines, but the vines were too tight, and he couldn't break free. What on earth do you want? Yun Luofeng gently stroked his chin and asked with a smile, Tell me, who sent you here? Mu Chu was stunned and fear flashed across his eyes. You. What are you talking about? I don't know. Back then, the Wu family had come to the medical tower and I had seen the attendants that the master of the Wu family had brought with him. But not long ago, I saw you walking with one of the attendants on the street. Mu Chu raised his head in astonishment and stared at Yun Luofeng. His uncle had indeed brought people to the medical tower, but he had actually remembered the appearance of one of his uncle's attendants. She had even determined his identity from this. This woman was really terrifying. That's right. Mu Chu laughed bitterly. I was sent by the Wu family and the master of the Wu family is my uncle. Many years ago, my family was attacked by enemies and only my sister and I managed to escape. In order to survive, my sister and I came to the Wu family to seek refuge with my uncle. But I never thought that when my parents were still alive, my uncle would treat my sister and me like his own children. When my parents passed away, I had to become a guard in the Wu family to ensure that my sister and I could live. This time, when my uncle heard that there was such a big commotion at the medical tower, he forced me to sneak into the medical tower and take the opportunity to steal the prescription from the medical tower. Initially, I didn't agree to do this, but the funny thing was that he locked my sister up and forced me to come here. I had no other choice but to come here. Mu Chu's expression was very pained. For the sake of his sister, he would kill himself without hesitation. Furthermore, my sister is seriously ill and needs to take medicine every day. If I don't get the prescription back, he won't treat my sister. I really have no other way out. Yun Luofeng's black eyes quietly fell on Mu Chu. Do you think that I will sympathize with you? Mu Chu was stunned and the expression on his face was very helpless. He had thought that his words would make this woman sympathize with him. Who would have thought that she would have such a heart of stone? Looks like I can't escape death this time. If he died, his sister would not be able to live either. Mu Chu, I have nothing to do with you and your sister. I will not sympathize with you and I will not help you. I never care about people who have nothing to do with me. I don't need sympathy either. In this world, the only people she cared about were her family. Her heart was very small, so small that it could only accommodate the people around her, but not the entire world. Mu Chu's expression was a little anxious. Miss Yun, I know you have the power. Please save my sister. As long as you save her, I, Mu Chu, will work for you for the rest of my life. Yun Luofeng laughed. With your strength, do you think you have the qualifications to work for me? If she hadn't discovered it in time, she didn't know what would have happened. Hence, she wouldn't have let her off so easily. Miss Yun, my power is low and I certainly don't have the right to work for you. However, I am willing to use my life to block all dangers for you. I only ask that you save my sister. A stream of tears flowed down from Mu Chu's eyes. His gaze was like that of an abandoned wolf cub. Right now, he was still young and didn't have much attacking power, but once he grew up, he would definitely become a ferocious beast. Chapter 1064. Because of the look in his eyes, Yun Luofeng's interest was piqued. If this wild beast was nurtured well, perhaps it would be of help to her. If I ask you to kill the Wu family, would you be willing? Yun Luofeng raised his brows at Mu Chu and asked. Mu Chu was stunned. He had not expected that Yun Luofeng would make such a request. Thus, he fell silent. After a while, he replied, all these years, the Wu family has always treated us siblings as servants. I've also suffered many beatings and cold. If it weren't for the Wu family, I would have starved to death on the streets, and my sister would have died of a serious illness. No matter how heartless and unjust the Wu family is, they have given me and my sister a way out. Thus, I can only promise you that if the Wu family becomes your enemy, I will stand on your side. On the other hand, I will not kill the Wu family. Even though he was eager to save his sister, he was not willing to be ungrateful. He also knew that if he said these things, Yun Luofeng would not help him. Thinking of this, Mu Chu closed his eyes. A trace of pain appeared in his eyes. Sister, I'm sorry, I'm useless and can't save you. Suddenly, the vines binding his body retreated. His body loosened and he fell from mid-air, landing heavily on the ground. Mu Chu opened his eyes in astonishment and looked at the white-clothed girl standing in front of him in confusion. Miss Yun, Yun Luofeng's lazy smile turned cold. The Wu family sent you to steal the medical books, which indirectly proves that they want to become enemies with the medical tower. When that time comes, I hope that you can fulfill your promise and kill the Wu family. Mu Chu sighed helplessly. Based on the Wu family's personality, they would definitely want to occupy the medical tower. When that time comes, he would definitely shed all pretense of cordiality with the Wu family. Also, Yun Luofeng paused and continued, if you want me to help you, you must prove your abilities to me. There is a dragon pool outside this endless city, and there is a giant dragon guarding it. If you can retrieve a dragon scale from the giant dragon, I will help you and your sister. After all, I will not accept useless people. Mu Chu's expression was determined. I will definitely retrieve the dragon scale. This was his only hope of saving his sister. Take this pill, Wang Yao said. Yun Luofeng took out a pill from his lapel and handed it to Mu Chu. Mu Chu took the pill and swallowed it without hesitation. I don't trust you too much. That's why I used this pill to control you. Yun Luofeng's gaze turned towards Mu Chu once again. Tell me about your sister's condition. Mu Chu hesitated. Why do you want to know this? Only by knowing the illness can we prescribe the right medicine. While you're gone, I'll take care of your sister in secret. However, your mission this time has a time limit. You must return within half a month. The young girl's words caused Mu Chu's eyes to brighten. Miss Yun, thank you for taking care of my sister. That's right, I still don't know what relationship Miss Yun has with this medical tower. What he wanted to ask was what was the relationship between Yun Luofeng and the tower master of the medical tower. Ha ha ha. Suddenly, a tender laughter sounded from the side. It was unknown when fire had appeared, but her small body was sitting on the beam, swinging her legs, a smile on her jade-carved face. Idiot, since my master is here, then she must be the tower master of the medical tower. Chapter 1065. Like a bolt from the blue, Mu Chu's body trembled as if he had been struck by lightning. This young girl was the tower master of the medical tower? Heavens, he had actually told the tower master not to cut the queue? Thinking of his previous actions, Mu Chu felt so ashamed that he wanted to find a hole to hide in. Yun Luofeng looked at Mu Chu. You only have half a month, why aren't you leaving? Hearing this, Mu Chu no longer hesitated. He hurriedly opened the door and ran downstairs. He was afraid that if he was late by an hour, Yun Luofeng would change his mind. After all, this medical tower was his last hope, and he couldn't give it up. Miss Yun. After Mu Chu left, Greenwood walked in and laughed. No, in the future, I can't call you Miss Yun anymore. I should call you Tower Master. Yun Luofeng waved his hand. In the outside world, just call me like before. Also, go and find someone for me. Who? The O family's eldest daughter. Greenwood's speed was very fast. In just a short while, he had already sent the news about the O family's eldest daughter. At this time, Yun Luofeng had already left the medical tower, and had returned to the house that Greenwood had bought in the western part of the city. The O family's eldest daughter is called Oya, and is the #1 genius in Endless City. She's not as beautiful as Nangong Lan from the Nangong family. At most, she's a delicate beauty, but she's the dream lover of countless men. Her elegance and nobility has attracted many men. It's said that many men have fought over her. Yun Luofeng frowned. That's not what I want to know, but what I want to know about her character. This. Greenwood hesitated for a moment. I don't know yet. After all, I only know what she's like. Tower Master, why do you want to know about Oya? Yun Luofeng laughed. Nothing much, a friend of mine has taken a fancy to Oya. I just want to understand the situation. That's right, have you heard about what happened between Oya and Nangong Yuni? Greenwood looked at Yun Luofeng strangely, but still answered his question. Nangong Yuni likes Oya, this is something that everyone in Endless City knows. As for Oya, she hasn't said anything, nor has she rejected him. I don't know what's going on either. Didn't say anything? Since he didn't say anything, it was a form of rejection. It seemed that after coming to this continent, Nangong Yuni would still suffer from emotional pain. Just as Yun Luofeng was about to continue investigating the situation, a familiar voice suddenly came from outside the door. Yun Luofeng, it was really not easy for me to find you. Now that I'm here, why aren't you coming out to welcome me? Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows. Speak of the devil. Greenwood, I'm going to see an old friend. Chow Chow. Greenwood rubbed his head. Who was this Chow Chow? An old friend of the pagoda master? Inside the courtyard. Yun Luofeng saw the man walking over quickly from afar. The smile in his eyes gradually melted as he greeted him. Nangong, how did you find this place? Nangong Yuni chuckled and flipped the hair on his forehead handsomely. What kind of person is this young master? With a pinch of his fingers, he calculated your location. Is that so? Did you calculate whether you would fall today? Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes and smirked. What a joke, how could this young master possibly know how to wrestle? Chapter 1066. After saying this, he wanted to strike a cool pose, but at this time, a leg tripped him from the side. He was caught off guard and tripped, falling head first. Yun Luofeng nonchalantly retracted his leg and shrugged. Looks like your finger pinching isn't too accurate. Nangong Yuni crawled up with his face covered in dirt and looked at Yun Luofeng resentfully. Yun Luofeng, you really are ruthless. This young master inquired for so long to find this place, and you actually treat me like this. Speak, what did you come to find me for? Yun Luofeng asked straightforwardly. Nangong Yuni's gaze became even more resentful. 3 days from now is my birthday. I specially came to find you, and you actually gave me such a big greeting gift? Birthday? Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and smiled. What gift do you want? I'll go find it for you. Nangong Yuni blinked. I want a spirit beast, can you give it to me? Spirit beast? Yun Luofeng muttered to himself for a while and nodded. Wait a few days, I'll go find it for you. Haha. Nangong Yuni laughed loudly and put his arm on Yun Luofeng's shoulder. Good brother, you're very kind. Then I'll be waiting for your birthday present. Nangong Yuni never doubted Yun Luofeng's words. This woman always did what she said. As long as she said it, she would definitely do it. Of course, that was for her own people. Facing enemies, when did she ever keep her words? Enemies were meant to be tricked. First of all, I don't want a weak spirit beast. The spirit beast I want should at least be at the sky spirit realm. Nangong Yuni's words were very impolite. What a joke. With his relationship with Yun Luofeng, what was there to be polite about? 3 days. 3 days from now, I'll bring your birthday gift to the Nangong family. The spirit beast she planned to give to Nangong Yuni must be very outstanding. How could the strength of the sky spirit realm be enough? Nangong Yuni patted Yun Luofeng's shoulder. Then I'll wait for you at the Nangong family. You must come. 3 days passed in a flash. During these 3 days, there was still a long line outside the medical tower, and the popularity was no less than before. Countless doctors from far away came, causing the western part of the city to become incomparably lively. However, during these 3 days, Yun Luofeng seemed to have disappeared. He no longer showed his face in the western part of the city. Except for a few people, no one knew where she was. Amidst the lively atmosphere in the western part of the city, another piece of news came out, causing the already noisy western part of the city to immediately burst into an uproar. The Nangong family was going to help an illegitimate son hold a birthday party? This was simply a disgrace to the ancestors. Even if this illegitimate son had already acknowledged his ancestors, he would at most be a bastard son. Since ancient times, there had never been a birthday banquet held for a bastard son. Because of this, one could see how much the Nangong family had doted on his illegitimate son. After all, after Nangong Lan was born, the Nangong family did not have any children. They had countless concubines in the backyard and none of them were pregnant. In addition, Nangong Lan was a woman, so this illegitimate son was quite favored by the Nangong family head. At this time, the Nangong family was brightly lit. Servants were busy going in and out, making it very noisy. Countless horse carriages stopped outside the Nangong family and walked in with smiles on their faces. No matter how much they disdained Nangong Uni, this illegitimate son, they had to give face to the Nangong family head. Chapter 1067. The Nangong Family. In the courtyard, Nangong Uni was looking outside, as if he was waiting for someone to arrive. When Nangong Qing saw his son's actions, a light flashed in his eyes. He slowly walked to his son's side and gently asked, Are you waiting for someone? Nangong Uni nodded, but his eyes never looked at his father. His gaze was on the crowd outside the courtyard, searching for a familiar voice. Suddenly, a peerlessly beautiful face was reflected in his eyes. His eyes instantly lit up and he quickly walked out to welcome her. At the entrance of the Nangong family, the crowd saw Nangong Uni quickly approaching and hurriedly made way. From start to finish, Nangong Uni's gaze did not look at anyone else. He walked to Yun Luofeng's side and naturally placed his arm on her shoulder. Yun Luofeng, you're finally here. I thought you were going to stand me up. Yun Luofeng raised her eyebrows and smiled. I will definitely do what I promised you. Nangong Uni laughed and curled his lips. Come, I'll bring you in. The crowd once again made way, allowing Yun Luofeng and Nangong Uni to pass through the crowd. However, when they saw how Nangong Uni treated Yun Luofeng, they could not help but guess the identity of this woman. Young Mississippi, behind the crowd, a luxurious carriage came to a stop. The servant girl stretched out her hand, and a moment later, a hand as fair as jade reached out from the carriage. With the servant girl's help, the person jumped down from the carriage. The servant girl glanced at Nangong Uni's departing figure, her expression somewhat angry. Didn't this young master Nangong often pester young miss? Why is it that on his birthday today, the person he specially waited for isn't young miss? Nangong Uni was only a bastard son. His status was low, and his young miss would never accept him. However, the young miss did not accept him as the young Mississippi. How could Nangong Uni ignore his young miss for another woman? Oh Ye's elegant eyebrows tightly knitted. Her indifferent eyes glanced at the servant girl next to her and said, Don't talk nonsense in the Nangong family. It is said that the Nangong family's patriarch loves Nangong Uni very much. So, if you say something wrong, it will certainly destroy the relationship between the O family and the Nangong family. Yes, miss, the maidservant curled her lips, still feeling a little indignant. However, miss, this servant has long heard that the eldest young master of the Nangong family is unrestrained and dissolute, with countless women in his arms. From what this servant can see, that white-robed woman is only one of those women who curry favor with those in power. I really don't know what kind of taste eldest young master Nangong has, to actually not wait for eldest miss for such a woman. Oh Ye stared at the noisy Nangong family without batting an eyelid. So what if he can wait for me? It's destined to be impossible between me and him. That's true. The servant girl raised her chin proudly. Eldest miss, you are so noble. How can a bastard match you? Even if this bastard son is doted on by the Nangong family head, he is still a bastard son. Those old fellows of the Nangong family will never let him inherit the throne. The person that my young miss marries must be a dragon or phoenix among men. Nangong Uni is not worthy of eldest Mississippi. Let's go. Oh Ye paused, then said, After all, it was father who asked me to attend the birthday banquet today. So, even if I don't like Nangong Uni, I must still stay here. Chapter 1068. With that, Oh Ye strode elegantly into the Nangong family's banquet. In the banquet hall. Yun Luofeng had just walked in when he bumped into a girl in green. When the girl saw Yun Luofeng, she was stunned for a moment and couldn't help but cry out, "It's you?" Hearing this, Yun Luofeng raised his head. In an instant, a beautiful face appeared in his line of sight. The girl in front of him was extremely beautiful and her expression was calm. Even when she saw Yun Luofeng, other than the initial surprise, she didn't show any other emotions. She even smiled in return. "I didn't think we would meet again." Nangong Yuni extended his hand and shielded Yun Luofeng behind him. He looked at Nangong Lan with vigilance. Nangong Lan sneered, "Big brother, look at how nervous you are. It's not like I'm going to eat her up. Speaking of which, you have so many women around you but you've never been nervous about any of them. Could it be that this girl is more important than Oya in your heart?" Nangong Yuni loved Oya deeply. This was no secret in Endless City. Thus, it was no wonder that Nangong Lan would say such a thing. Who knew that when faced with Nangong Lan's question, Nangong Yuni would snort disdainfully, "Oya can't be compared to her." It was true that he liked Oya. However, if Oya wanted to become Yun Luofeng's enemy, he would definitely stand by her side regardless of everything. Nangong Lan smiled. She glanced at Oya, who was walking into the banquet hall, and the corners of her lips curled into a smile as if her scheme had succeeded. Oya seemed to have heard Nangong Yuni's words. Her expression was very calm, without any fluctuations. On the contrary, the servant girl beside her was furious. Her eyes glared fiercely at Yun Luofeng and Nangong Yuni. In her heart, she angrily cursed the adulterous couple. Nangong Yuni, this idiot, actually said that his young miss couldn't be compared to that woman? How could a beautiful vase who fawned on the rich and powerful compare to his young miss? Nangong Yuni clearly saw Oya appear behind him. His expression suddenly changed. At this moment, he realized that he had fallen into Nangong Lan's trap. Oya had never accepted him. Now, it was even more impossible for him to make her accept him. However, he didn't regret it. Because these words were the truth in his heart. Yun Luofeng patted Nangong Yuni's shoulder and raised her head to look at Oya. When she saw Oya, her pupils shrank. She finally understood why Nangong Yuni was so deeply in love with Oya, because Oya's appearance was very similar to his girlfriend in China. She was also the prettiest girl in Wuxia University, you know? Nangong Yuni bitterly laughed. "When I first saw Oya on this continent, I couldn't help but want to get close to her because the two of them are too similar. I couldn't control myself." Yun Luofeng lowered his eyes and consoled warmly, "Don't worry, I'll think of a way to let you go back. However, you have to be clear that the two of them are not the same person." Nangong Yuni nodded as a smile appeared on his handsome face. "I understand." He had fallen into a trance, but no one could pull him up. Now, Yun Luofeng's appearance was like a rope that pulled him ashore. At this moment, Nangong Qing, who was receiving guests outside, heard the commotion and quickly walked in. What's going on?" Nangong Yuni raised his head and looked at Nangong Qing. He curled the corners of his lips in an unruly manner. "Nothing much, I'm just making arrangements for my friend. Yun Luofeng, you'll be sitting in the first row in a moment." Chapter 1069. Big Brother. Nangong Lan's expression slightly changed. "The two seats in the first row are for the Wu family. Only the O family has the qualifications to sit there." Nangong Yuni turned his head and swept a glance at her. "Didn't the Wu family not come? Just happened to have an extra seat, give it to my friend." At this moment, Nangong Lan's expression was very ugly. In this banquet, her seat had already fallen to the fifth row. If she let Yun Luofeng sit in the first row, wouldn't that mean that he was suppressing her? "Father." She hurriedly looked at Nangong Qing and opened her mouth, wanting to say something. Nangong Yuni snorted. He held the back of his head in a sloppy manner and held a straw in his mouth. "This is my birthday, so I have to decide how to arrange it. If you don't agree, then there's no need for this birthday banquet to continue. You can all leave now." After saying this, he threw away the straw in his mouth and turned to Yun Luofeng. "I also don't want to stay in this Nangong family. if they can't even properly arrange for my friend to come here, then why should I stay? Yun Luofeng, didn't we say before that we were going to travel north and south of Great Chuan? Why don't we take this opportunity to experience it? Everyone knew that Nangong Yuni of the Nangong family, besides being lustful, was a downright hedonistic son of rich parents. However, the Nangong family's master doted on him, so he condoned all of his unreasonable behavior. Sure enough, hearing this, Nangong Qing frowned, looked at Nangong Lan reproachfully, then turned his gaze to Nangong Yuni and gently said, "This is your birthday banquet, you should indeed be the one to decide where you want her to sit, it's all up to you to arrange." Hearing this, Nangong Yuni smiled, he winked at Yun Luofeng, as if showing off his power. "Let's go." He pulled Yun Luofeng's arm and walked towards the first row. Nangong Qing looked at their departing figures, lost in thought. "Miss," the O family servant girl stamped her feet, feeling indignant. "This Nangong Yuni is too much, he actually let that woman sit with you, miss. What status does she have? Does she have the qualifications to sit side by side with miss? A lowly woman who fawns on power, she's simply tarnishing miss nobility. How could a woman who befriended Nangong Yuni be anything good? Friend? How could there be pure friendship between men and women?" He was clearly trying to absolve himself of his beastly behavior. "Oh, you didn't say anything." Her cold gaze fell on Yun Luofeng, and a cold light flashed across her beautiful eyes. No matter who saw a man who had once pestered them set his eyes on another woman, they would not feel good in their heart. Even if she did not love this man. "Master." At this time, just as Yun Luofeng and Nangong Yuni walked to their seats, little Mo's annoyed voice came from their soul. "This Nangong Yuni really has a problem with his eyesight. He actually fell in love with such a hypocritical woman. This woman is no different from Nangong family's Nangong Lan." No matter how low the O clan's maid's voice was, it could not escape little Mo's ears. So, when he heard those people insult Yun Luofeng, he was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. Even the small tree had already extended its vines to the ground, preparing to use these vines to kill people. Moreover, he had stopped them in time. Otherwise, the people of the O clan would have died here. He didn't like the people of the O clan, but he didn't want Nangong Yuni's birthday banquet to become a blood banquet. Chapter 1070. Yun Luofeng took a sip of tea. Who Nangong Yuni likes, that's his own business. As a friend, I can keep an eye on him, but I can't make decisions for him. Even if the woman he likes is trash, it has nothing to do with me. As a friend, he couldn't interfere with the feelings of the other person. It was like this in the previous life, and it was the same in this life. Nangong, Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and looked at the man beside him. "I think your father treats you well." Nangong Yuni sneered, "He treats me well because I'm his only son. This guy values boys more than girls. No matter how strong Nangong Lan is, he's not willing to give the position to her." He paused and continued, "Moreover, on the first day I came back, he wanted me to inherit the position. But I wasn't interested in his Nangong family, so I deliberately acted like a playboy. Sure enough, seeing that I was so useless, he didn't mention the matter of inheriting the position for the time being. But this is not a long-term solution. Once I inherit the Nangong family, Nangong Lan and her people won't let me go." If he hadn't deliberately acted useless, Nangong Lan and her daughter wouldn't have kept him alive until now. Perhaps, he would have already gone to the underworld. Sometimes, being a playboy was also a protective color. "Fortunately, you're here now." Nangong Yuni's gaze turned to Yun Luofeng. "Your ability has always been stronger than mine. I also believe that as long as you're here, I will live." "You believe me like that? If I don't believe you, who else can I believe?" "Yun Luofeng, you're the only person I can trust in this world." Yun Luofeng was silent. Over the years, she had encountered many enemies. Now, there was an even stronger Tian Hui Empire waiting for her. If she let Nangong Yuni stay by her side, she would definitely drag him down. It seemed that she had to help Nangong Yuni settle the matter here as soon as possible and then leave. Oh Ye gradually walked to the seat and gracefully sat down. It was as if she ignored the existence of Yun Luofeng and Nangong Yuni. From beginning to end, she didn't even look at the two. The servant girl sneered, her face full of sarcasm. Miss, there are always some people in this world who like to curry favor. Women like you, who rely on their own strength, are more worthy of respect. With her own strength? Yun Luofeng raised the corner of his lips. Isn't she relying on her father? You. Anger flashed across the maid's face. She took a deep breath, suppressing the anger in her heart. She turned her gaze towards Nangong Yuni. Young Master Nangong, did you not see this woman bullying my young miss? Nangong Yuni frowned, turned his head, and continued to chat with Yun Luofeng. The maidservant's face turned even more ashen. She could not believe that this man who liked to follow behind the young miss would have a change of heart so quickly. Xiao Meng, Ya calmly glanced at her maidservant and spoke with an expressionless face. This is the Nangong family home and that lady is young Master Nangong's guest. Don't be too presumptuous. Yes, Mississippi, the maidservant lowered her head and answered unwillingly. Father. In the midst of the noisy crowd, Nangong Lan's clear voice sounded out. For Big Brother's birthday this time, I have specially prepared a precious gift for him. I hope Big Brother will like it. She lifted her hand and patted it lightly. In an instant, 4 guards carried a cage and walked into the courtyard with difficulty. Chapter 1071. In an instant, everyone's gazes were focused on the cage, including Nangong Qing. What is this? It's actually being carried in a cage? I see that the cage is constantly shaking. It should be alive. Alive? Could it be a spiritual beast? Everyone was shocked. Spiritual beasts were very difficult to obtain. To tame a spiritual beast, not only did one need to spend a lot of effort, one also needed to have enough power. Nangong Lan had actually brought a spiritual beast as a birthday gift. It seemed that Nangong Lan really treated her elder brother extremely well. Following Nangong Lan's orders, the guards put down the cage and lifted the red cloth covering it. Immediately, a huge red lion appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The lion's entire body was blood red and it was incomparably ferocious. However, the violent lion was actually lying docilely in the cage, like an obedient kitten. Heavens, it's the king of the forest, the blood lion. This blood lion is very precious. Young Master Nangong has obtained a treasure this time. Nangong Lan said with a smile, I spent several months taming this blood lion. My goal is to give it to Big Brother, so that Big Brother's safety can be guaranteed. Nangong Qing looked at his daughter and a complicated look flashed across his eyes. Logically speaking, Nangong Lan was very powerful and outstanding. Giving the Nangong family to her was the best choice. Unfortunately, Nangong Lan was a daughter. How could a woman take on such a heavy responsibility? Women could only be subordinates, they could not step on men's heads. Father, Nangong Lan's smile deepened. Previously, I met this friend of Big Brother's and I even fought over a spiritual beast with her. She must know that Big Brother likes small animals like spiritual beasts, so she stole the spiritual beast to please Big Brother. After speaking, Nangong Lan turned to look at Yun Luofeng. Miss Yun, I wonder if you brought that spiritual beast? Nangong Yuni frowned. Just as he was about to explode in anger, a hand reached out from the side and pressed down on his arm. The young girl lazily leaned against the back of the chair, and her lips curled into a devilish smile. It seems like the Nangong family's young miss has a bad memory, causing her to forget what happened a few days ago. If that's the case, you should find a doctor to treat you as soon as possible. Nangong Lan's expression did not change as she smiled. Miss Yun, what do you mean by that? Firstly, when we were fighting over the spiritual beast that day, I had already said that the spiritual beast was a gift for my disciple. Secondly, I did not take away the spirit beast, it chose me. These words did not make Nangong Lan angry. She still had a smile on her face. I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. I thought you wanted to fight for the spiritual beast because you wanted to give it to my big brother. However, this can't be blamed on you. After all, in your heart, my big brother isn't as important as your disciple. Yun Luofeng's evil eyes glanced at Nangong Lan, then faced Nangong Yuni. He took out a ring from his lapel and handed it to him. This is my gift for you. See if you like it. Spatial ring? Puchi. Looking at the gift that Yun Luofeng had taken out, everyone present could not help but laugh out loud. I'm dying of laughter. She actually took out a spatial ring to give to Sir Nangong? That's right, based on her status, the most precious item she could take out would be a spatial ring. Chapter 1072. That's right. In the eyes of the commoners, a spatial ring is already a rare treasure. However, to the Nangong family, they don't lack spatial rings. She definitely can't take out anything decent, so she used a spatial ring as a congratulatory gift. The corners of Nangong Lan's lips curled up into an arc. A mocking expression appeared on her elegant face. A spatial ring? The person who took out such a gift was definitely not someone of high status. Thus, her father could clearly see what kind of friends Nangong Yuni had made. However, Nangong Qing was not as angry as Nangong Lan had imagined. His eyes were filled with excitement as he stared at the ring that Yun Luofeng had gifted Nangong Yuni. This ring, according to the legends, is a ring that can store a spiritual beast. After a long while, Nangong Qing's trembling voice rang out. In an instant, the people who had been mocking Yun Luofeng were all stunned. According to the legends, a ring that can store a spiritual beast? This ring is a spiritual beast ring? Could it be that this lady had already guessed that Miss Nangong's gift would be a spiritual beast, so she conveniently used this ring as a gift? A spiritual beast ring is indeed precious, but Miss Nangong's gift is still more practical. Thus, this time, she lost to Miss Nangong. Yun Luofeng acted as if he did not hear the mocking voices and shrugged his shoulders. I found this ring while I was searching for a gift for you, so I conveniently bought it for you to see if you liked it. What she meant was that this spiritual beast ring was not a gift she had given to Nangong Yuni. She had just conveniently bought it? Nangong Yuni returned to his senses. He looked at Yun Luofeng and suddenly understood something. He put the ring on his own finger. Soon after, his finger gently stroked the ring. Immediately, a ray of light was reflected from within the ring. It was a brilliant white light. Within the white light, a blurry figure gradually appeared. It was a small sable. Its body was as white as snow, and it had a unique purple tail. Its agate-like purple eyes rolled around randomly. It was clever and frightening. This small sable had a pair of wings on its body, like the feathers of an angel, pure white and clean. A small sable? A mocking laugh came from within the crowd. This small sable is at most suitable for acting cute. It simply cannot fight. It can't compare to Miss Nangong's blood lion. Nangong Yuni slowly walked to the front of the small marten and indifferently said, "To me, no one can compare to this small marten." Because this spirit beast was a gift from Yun Luofeng. No matter how powerful the blood lion was, it was not as important as this little sable. The small marten looked disdainfully at the person who had just ridiculed it. It lifted its short legs and walked elegantly towards the caged blood lion. Roar! When the blood lion saw little marten approaching it, it let out a warning roar. There was a slight tremor in its voice, but no one could tell. "Young Lady Nangong, release your blood lion and show this little marten what it's made of." The man continued to ridicule her. It was obvious that he did not care about this cute little marten at all. The small marten snorted and slowly walked in front of the blood lion. It raised its head and arrogantly looked down at the blood lion. The blood lion finally felt fear. Its large body hurriedly took a few steps back. Its body trembled violently, as if the seemingly harmless small marten was some kind of ferocious wild beast. When they saw this scene, the people who had been ridiculing it immediately choked back their words. Their faces were filled with astonishment. Chapter 1073. Did they see wrongly? The mighty and strong blood lion would be afraid of a small sable? Dual-winged sable. Nangong Qing's voice became even more excited. This is a rare spirit beast, the dual-winged sable. Furthermore, this sable's strength should be at the venerable spirit beast realm. At this moment, everyone's expressions were very interesting. Their faces seemed to have been dyed with green and purple. Nangong Yuni laughed out loud and placed his hand on Yun Luofeng's shoulder. Yun Luofeng, you're really a good friend. I only asked you to give me a holy spirit beast. I didn't expect you to give me such a big surprise. Compared to Yun Luofeng's purple-tailed sable, what was the blood lion? Nangong Lan's eyes flashed and she smiled towards Yun Luofeng. Miss Yun, you are indeed my big brother's best friend. This time, I admit my defeat. I wonder if Miss Yun can tell me where you caught this purple-tailed sable? I also want to try my luck. I think it's better for you to save your blood lion first. Yun Luofeng said with a light smile. Nangong Lan's expression suddenly changed. What do you mean by that? What I mean is that your blood lion has been poisoned, it won't live for long. From the moment the blood lion was carried up, Yun Luofeng had sensed that something was wrong with it. This blood lion wasn't really tamed, it had been poisoned. The poison made it powerless, it could only lie in the cage and wait for death. Even when it roared at the small sable, it didn't have enough strength. It was clear that it was beyond cure. Also, Yun Luofeng paused. This poison has made this blood lion powerless now, but not long after, it will become abnormally ferocious. Anyone who gets close to it will be bitten to death. Nangong Lan's face paled. She tried her best to suppress the fear in her heart and said with a trembling voice. What do you mean? Someone wants to harm my Nangong family? But my Nangong family has never made enemies with anyone. Why would they want to use me to harm my Nangong family members? After Nangong Lan said this, everyone else also calmed down. That's right, who would be so daring to make a move against the Nangong family? There are so many doctors here, but none of them noticed this. What does a little girl like you know? Hearing these people's words, Nangong Yuni's complexion became even more unsightly. He snorted and said, You guys didn't discover anything. That proves that your learning skills aren't good enough. All of you are useless. We're useless? An old man flew into a rage. Young Master Nangong, we didn't bicker with you because of Patriarch Nangong, yet you dare to slander us like this? Yes, our skills are not good, so we can't see anything. However, I've long heard that Oya of the O clan is proficient in medical skills at such a young age. Even many famous grandmasters who have been famous for many years admit that they are inferior to them. Now that Miss Oya is here, why don't we invite her to take a look? In an instant, many gazes landed on Oya. Oya put down the chopsticks in her hand and slowly stood up. Her movements were elegant and she exuded an air of nobility. It seems that for the sake of the Nangong family, I'm here to check if this spiritual beast has really been poisoned. In front of everyone, Oya walked to the blood lion's cage. She lowered her body and carefully observed the blood lion in the cage. After a while, she stood up and shook her head. This spiritual beast is very healthy. It doesn't have any illness. The crowd was in an uproar. Words of ridicule once again shot toward Yun Luofeng like knives.